Chapter 805. Zhu Zhening was at the nascent divinity realm. Anyone who knew Mo Yan's true identity immediately guessed the identity of the hand's owner when they saw it appear out of nowhere in the spatial tunnel. Those who didn't know the identity of the hand's owner could roughly guess the cultivation base of the hand's owner through the violent clashes between the hand and the laws of heaven and earth. Even those who were slow-witted could see that many specters who weren't strong enough were forced to retreat into the depths of the earth. Not to mention that the palace that had been floating in the sky the whole time, which had been transformed from the Heaven Palace seal, fell from the sky and smashed into the ground. The thick black cloud formed by the black scepter that enveloped the three ghoul kings also sank to the ground. Some even looked up at the sky and were shocked to see that the sky, which had been dark all year long, was about to clear up and reveal the sun, moon, and stars. The group of specters shrieked in despair. The sky of the land of terror was perpetually dark and gloomy. It was a natural protection for spirits and ghosts. All the important figures with honorable statuses knew that the will of the land of terror, the source of the veins, was protecting the specters in this way. If the sky was torn apart and the blazing sun shone down, it would probably cause unimaginable damage to the specters in the land of terror. Many of the weaker specters who couldn't adapt to it would be annihilated in a breath's time. It was just like how human cultivators couldn't leave their bodies until they reached the soul wander realm. Even the weaker specters didn't dare to break free from the land of terror and wander in the outside world. Once the dark sky was torn apart and the sun shone brightly, streams of supernatural power that didn't belong to this world would wreak havoc in the land of terror, which would undoubtedly be a disaster for the weaker specters. No one had expected that a mere hand would almost pierce a hole in the sky of this world the moment the space corridor appeared. Fortunately, everything returned to normal in the blink of an eye. The sky was still dark and gloomy. After Mo Yan and the demonic saber disappeared without a trace, the spatial tunnel that had magically formed with the help of the source of the veins also disappeared. The only thing that was still floating in midair was the evil demon cauldron. Yes. Yuan Lianyao of the Red Devil School watched everything that happened in silence. When she opened her mouth, she found that she couldn't help but stutter. Yuan's face darkened. He gently nodded. It's him. Yuan Lianyao's eyes suddenly became chaotic, and the illusory god's body seemed to collapse. That was Zhu Zhening. He was the second most powerful person in the Devil's Palace, a peak powerhouse who had condensed a primordial spirit and an existence at the top of the pyramid of Hauran. For the sake of Mo Yan, he had performed a great divine ability that could change heaven and earth, barging into an open, unstable space tunnel to take away Mo Yan and the demonic saber. Don't worry too much. This is a terrifying place. Even he cannot reverse the great Tao here. Taking a deep breath, Yuan calmed down and said in a low voice, "Don't worry. If a primordial spirit realm cultivator could control everything, the terrifying place would have been taken down long ago. For tens of thousands of years, the terrifying place had always been independent. The 5 supreme sects of today, including the former Shenhun sect, couldn't control it. This was because the source of the veins deep underground guarded this part of the world, and didn't allow any forces to touch it." Yuan thought. Through the gurgling nether river in the netherworld, which had been filled with water again after Whitebone had become a ghoul king, he secretly communicated with the source of the veins. The source of the veins told him that Zhu Zhening didn't have the ability to affect the situation in the terrifying place. In this strange place of extreme the only one who could do whatever he wanted was the nether capital ghoul king, who was born because of it. Secretly, he communicated with the source of the veins again. Qianxiang Ghost. Suddenly, his gaze fell on the ancient ghoul that looked like a golden-armored giant. Due to the appearance of the soul pool and the creation of a spatial tunnel, the Qianxiang Ghost, who hadn't been attacked by Luo Ho Ghoul King for the time being, shuddered. Pieces of golden armor subconsciously shrank. This golden-armored giant had become much shorter and more refined in an extremely short period of time. For some reason, just being looked at by Yu Yuan made the Qianxiang ghost soul origin feel cold. Impossible! What am I worried about? A mere master who is still wet behind the ears, how could he possibly kill me? Even Luo Ho was only able to injure me. The Qianxiang ghost shook his head, trying to clear the fear in his heart through this action. He had never thought that Yu Yuan, who had broken through the lightning tribulation and reached the Yin God realm, was really powerful. The Nether Capital Ghoul King was wary of Yu Yuan because of the scabbard that Kid held, which belonged to the Moon's severing great cultivator who had shaken the world in outer space. Because of the scabbard and the sword art of the sword soul, it would trigger the sword power that eroded the Nether Capital Ghoul King day and night. That was all. The Qianxiang ghost himself hadn't been poisoned by the sword power of the Moon's severing great cultivator, so he wasn't afraid that Yu Yuan would use the power in the scabbard to seriously injure his soul. You boy, I tore that girl's Yin God apart. You saw it. What can you do to me? In order to resist the inexplicable fear in his heart, he even tried to provoke Yu Yuan through the air. His threatening appearance looked a little funny. What can I do? Yu Yuan lowered his head and muttered to himself. Living long enough doesn't mean you're smart, and it doesn't mean you can avoid disaster. Chao Jiazi, who had fallen to the ground, stood on the ground with a body of flesh and blood, holding a fluorescent Heaven Palace seal in his hand. Behind him, the Yin gods who had fallen with him were surprised to find that the palace was no longer there. The palace that had protected them for many days was now in Chao Jiazi's hand. His true body was exposed to the bitter cold wind, and he wasn't afraid of the bone-piercing wind at all. His eyes, which shone with divine light, were fixed on the soul-refining pool. The spatial passageway that had tried to take the Devil Saber and Mo Yen away had disappeared, but the soul-refining pool was still behind Yu Yuan. Whether it was real or not, when the black soul energy at the bottom of the soul-refining pool rotated with the pool, all of the specters and soul spirits present felt a strong sense of unease. Yu Yuan. Under the fiendish demon cauldron, a huge black scepter stood tall like a black mountain. Clusters of black mist were released endlessly from the scepter, and a terrifying soul shadow slowly straightened its body from its crouching position. As it stood up, turbulent black mist swirled around it, and rich black demon energy surged like an ocean. Black Scepter! Black Scepter Ghost King! The remaining specters nearby had just been pressed to the ground by Zhu Zhenying's hand. At this moment, almost all of them were heavenly ghosts and dark ghosts. There were only a few hundred of them left. They floated off the ground again, and stared at the terrifying soul shadow that was slowly growing in the depths of the turbulent black clouds. You've treated young Master Mo Yin like this. I can't explain it to him. In a few breaths' time, the soul shadow that had grown to the same height as the huge black scepter finally stood up straight. It faced Yu Yuan and said, "He gave me the scepter that I used my life to cultivate, and I protected his son. It was a fair trade, but you ruined it. You've made it very difficult for me. You stopped being human a long time ago. Black Scepter, I didn't expect you to show yourself." Yu Yuan's gaze moved from the Qianxiang Hell Ghost to the Black Scepter Ghost King, who was almost at the same height as his fiendish demon cauldron. The Ghost Kings may be the strongest power in the Land of Terror. But I want you to know that in other parts of the Howren world, there are powers that can keep the Ghost Kings in check. It's just that you've always been well protected. As long as you stay in the Land of Terror and don't leave, you won't be punished by those powers. However, if the God that protects you opens the door to those powers, everything will change. The soul-refining pool floating above his head gave him great confidence. No one knew that the suction force coming from the soul-refining pool gave Yu Yuan the feeling that it was going to devour more than just a small country of Chasu. It wasn't just the specters in front of him. Yu Yuan sensed that the soul-refining pool was going to devour the entire Land of Terror. Every Een god that was born here or came from the other realms would be targeted by the soul refining pool. If the soul refining pool really arrived and floated in the land of terror instead of the forbidden land of the fallen moons, Nye Tian had a feeling that this world would undergo an earth-shattering change. Chapter 806. The black cloud that engulfed white bones and thousand tribulations surged and slowly floated up again. White bones seemed to be restricted by thousand tribulations. When Black Staff Ghost King revealed himself, white bones didn't move or speak. Whoosh! The 100-meter-tall Black Staff Ghost King held the black staff with both hands. His eyes were like two dark suns as he stared at Yu Yuan. The black cloud that gradually floated up only reached his chest. At this moment, most of Black Staff Ghost King's body was inside the black cloud. Only a small part of him was exposed. At first glance, Black Staff Ghost King looked like a demon god born of darkness. Even the thick black cloud was another form of demon energy. It wasn't the soul energy of the land of despair. Black Staff was originally a Freedom Realm cultivator of the Tranquil Continent. Although he didn't come from the Devil's Palace, the secret spirit art he cultivated was actually the same as the Devil's Palace and the Red Devil School. Chun Yen of the Sword Sect explained softly to Chun Qinyen on top of the cloud cruising ship. The black cloud you saw engulfing white bones was pure demon energy. This demon energy was released by the black staff, so it must have been gathered by the staff itself. I heard that the person in the Devil's Palace sent him this black staff after he became a Ghost King. The demon energy inside might have been gathered by that person from the outer realms for Black Staff. On the Tranquil Continent, cultivators like the Devil's Palace, the Red Devil School, and the Juling School could contain more energy. In addition to the spirit energy of Howren, they could also refine energy that was different from spirit energy in some mysterious realms. Demon energy could be found in many forbidden lands that nurtured earth devils. In the depths of the outer realms, there were even more sources of demon energy. Demon energy was also known as demon energy. Unlike the spirit energy of Howren, demon energy wasn't pure enough. It usually needed to be purified again after being absorbed into the body. However, some people who cultivated special demonic arts needed this kind of impure energy. The Devil's Palace had a few rare demonic arts that were extremely powerful and had equally shocking drawbacks and recoil. They used demonic energy to temper the body and used demonic energy to replace the world's spirit chi before injecting it into the yellow quartz meridian point. The thick, black clouds formed by the demonic energy within the black staff carried a dark aura, which seemed to be compatible with the demonic incantations that the Black Staff Ghoul King had practiced when he was alive. Now that he had transformed into a Ghost King, he could still use it. Since these demonic energies didn't belong to soul power, the white flames released by Bai Gu, which were supposed to purify impurities, didn't work. Even the holy light shining from White Bone's body could not penetrate the black clouds. The reason why Black Scepter Ghoul King dared to become the second Ghoul King to fight White Bone to the death after the death of Frigid Depths was because of the demon energy that he had refined from an unknown source inside his Black Scepter. Yu Yuan, I'll break your magic energy screen first, then listen to what you have to say. Black Scepter Ghoul King grinned within the surging black clouds. He raised the black scepter that had made him famous with both hands and smashed it towards the fiendish demon cauldron with great force. Black demonic light was released from the gigantic scepter that looked like a towering stone pillar. Bang! Mo Yan's Yaluo demonic saber couldn't break the magic energy light shield, but it was instantly shattered by Black Scepter Ghoul King's strike. Even the fiendish demon cauldron was smashed to the ground by the gigantic black scepter with a clang. When the gigantic scepter was about to hit his head, Yu Yuan shrank his body and escaped into the small world inside the cauldron. Kid, there's nothing you can do by hiding in the cauldron. Black Scepter Ghoul King grinned viciously. His mountain-like body suddenly shrank and turned into a beam of dark light that shot towards the mouth of the fiendish demon cauldron. From the looks of it, he was going to enter the small world inside the cauldron and kill Yu Yuan. Inside the small world inside the cauldron, Yu Yuan saw that hundreds of newly formed fiendish demons had been reduced to dust by Black Scepter Ghoul King's strike. Yui's soul shadow was slightly blurry at the top of the cauldron wall. Black Scepter is a Ghoul King after all. He's the strongest fighting force in the Land of Terror. Yui looked at him with a sad face and said, "Master, I'll protect your partner. You should think of a way to deal with Black Scepter yourself." Her words showed that she couldn't do anything to Black Scepter Ghoul King. "I know." Yu Yuan turned his head and looked at the panicked Yuan Lianyao. He smiled and said, "Stay inside and don't come out again." He then reminded Yui, "Don't let her out." As soon as he finished speaking, he jumped out of the small world inside the cauldron and appeared outside the cauldron. He stood on the icy ground with his body of flesh and blood and felt the biting cold wind. His body, which had been refined by the Een sunflower essence, didn't feel the slightest bit of discomfort. On the contrary, he felt like a fish in the ocean when he left the fiendish demon cauldron's protection and stood outside. He looked up and found that the illusory image of the soul refining pool was still above his head. As for the Black Staff Ghost King, seeing that he was unable to withstand a single blow from his staff, he stepped out of the black cloud and left his staff behind. Then, in his original soul form, he turned into a beam of soul light and shot toward Qin Mu. That Yu Yuan is just like you. He's exposed with his body of flesh and blood, but he's still safe and sound. How can he do it too? The many Tianyuan continent guests beside Chao Jiazi couldn't remain calm when they saw Yu Yuan step out of the fiendish demon cauldron and put it into his sleeve. Chao Jiazi had been with them all this time. With the help of the Een sunflower essence in the Een mountain of the White Bones territory, they had witnessed the process of Chao Jiazi refining it into his body. They all knew that Chao Jiazi wasn't afraid of the harsh astral winds in the land of despair and could travel with his true body. This was why they valued and respected Chao Jiazi so much. None of them had expected that Yu Yuan would be able to move freely in the land of terror just like Chao Jiazi, unafraid of the bone-piercing, fleshly wind. As expected, Chao Jiazi smiled casually. He wasn't surprised at all, as if he had expected this result. Yu Yuan and Ziqing, Chen Qinyan, Old Demon Huang and the other onlookers were shocked when they saw Yu Yuan suddenly appear in his true body after being smashed by Black Scepter Ghoul King and the fiendish demon cauldron falling into the distance. What shocked them even more was yet to come. Yu Yuan raised his head and looked at the illusory soul pool. He didn't seem to notice that Black Scepter Ghoul King's soul had turned into a beam of dark light and pierced into his sea of consciousness. How dare he come out of that black cloud of demonic energy? Does he really think that the power of a Ghoul King is invincible? Yu Yuan sneered and muttered to himself as he looked up at the sky. Whoosh! The soul-transforming pool that had just appeared above his head started to spin at a much faster speed. The power that had almost devoured Mo Yen and the saber soul of the Kiara demonic saber suddenly became several times stronger. It was also at this moment that the spatial passageway that had vanished earlier instantly reappeared. The Black Staff Ghoul King, who was supposed to fly toward Yu Yuan, was dragged into the spatial tunnel by the soul-refining pool and teleported straight to the forbidden land of the fallen moon with the help of the flowing light. All of this happened in the blink of an eye. Before anyone realized what had happened, the beam of dark light that Black Scepter Ghoul King had condensed disappeared into the spatial tunnel. Yu Yuan took a deep breath and sensed Yan Qiling's aura from the spatial tunnel with great clarity. The first time the spatial tunnel had appeared, Zhu Zhenning had made a move, so he hadn't learned anything from it before the spatial tunnel that connected the forbidden land of the fallen moon to the land of terror had collapsed. However, Zhu Zhenning hadn't intervened this time. Back in the great lake of the desolate god, he had seen how Yen Qiling had opened a wide spatial tunnel and sent the evil god's statue into the forbidden land of the fallen moon with the help of the desolate god. He knew that Yen Qiling was in the forbidden land of the fallen moon right now. When he had established a connection with the soul pool, Yen Qiling in the forbidden land of the fallen moon must have sensed it and cooperated with him from afar. Just like the desolate god, the source of the Yin spirit vein had opened a door for him. Right now, the soul pool that had appeared in the void was only a projection. However, once Yen Qiling opened the spatial tunnel, the projection would become real. If the soul pool became real, its power would increase by more than 100 times. If a ghoul king from the land of terror had been in the forbidden land of the fallen moon, it would have been difficult for him to even rank among the top 10 crooks. How could he possibly stand up to the soul pool that had become even more powerful? With a boom, the spatial tunnel that had appeared out of nowhere disappeared again. Before the spatial tunnel disappeared, Yen Qiling sent a wisp of soul will to Nye Tian. He told Yu Yuan that with his attainments in spatial power, he could only open one more spatial tunnel. He also told Yu Yuan that it would be best if he used it at a critical moment when Yu Yuan was going to deal with the Nether capital. P.S. Sorry, I only have one chapter for today. This morning, I watched the NBA game between the Lakers and the Blazers. As a fan of Old John, Old and I was so engrossed in the game that he didn't have time to write. In the afternoon, I hurriedly wrote a chapter and made an appointment with a few old guys. We're going to play a 4v4 half-court game under the hot sun. Every time I watch a basketball game, I'm so excited that I want to play. Ahem, I'm old, so it's rare that I still have a little bit of passion for playing basketball. I only do it a few times a year. Chapter 807. Due to the formation of a new spatial tunnel, the streak of soul power Black Scepter had used to kill Yu Yuan was pulled from the land of terror to the forbidden land of the fallen moons. The spatial tunnel quickly disappeared, leaving only the image of the soul transforming pool floating above Yu Yuan's head. After doing all this, Yu Yuan gently closed his eyes and opened them again. Opening his eyes, he turned around and smiled at the Qian Chong ghost, who was dodging Luo Ho's attack. Due to Yu Yuan's gaze, the Qian Chong ghost's brilliant golden armor suddenly shone with a dazzling light. This ancient ghost, who had been loyal to the Nether capital for thousands of years and had wandered the Starry River for many years, felt a chill run down his spine. He was afraid of the spatial tunnel that he didn't know when it would reappear. Once it reappeared, the soul-transforming pool that was supposed to be in the forbidden land of the fallen moons would unleash unimaginable power. If Zhu Zhenning hadn't intervened, Mo Yen and his demonic saber would have been sucked into it as well. Black Scepter Ghoul King had already been caught. Did he have the ability to break free from the soul-transforming pool? The chill in the Qian Chong ghost's heart grew even stronger as he thought of this. Born in the land of terror, the Qian Chong ghost had lived for a very long time. It was only natural that he had heard many legends about the soul-transforming pool in the forbidden land of the fallen moons. In fact, he knew more about the soul-transforming pool than Black Scepter Ghoul King. That pool can crush Black Scepter's soul as easily as blowing off dust. The Qian Chong ghost's soul will was transmitted to the white-robed man through a secret technique. The 7 of them all know how terrifying the soul-transforming pool is. You're the only one who doesn't know how powerful that pool is. Remember, stay away from Yu Yuan. You'd rather be attacked by Luo Ho than be targeted by Yu Yuan. With these thoughts, the Qian Chong ghost floated backward. With his actions, he put some distance between himself and Yu Yuan and the black cloud. Everyone could see that he was already afraid of Yu Yuan and the soul-transforming pool. Black Cane is already in such a state. Why would I need you to remind me? The white-robed specter was also terrified. He muttered to himself and immediately communicated with the other 7 ancient specters before retreating with the Luo Ho Ghoul King. I'll deal with you later. With a cold snort, Yu Yuan retracted his gaze and turned around again. He once again faced the cluster of clouds formed by dark mana and used his divine vision to deeply observe the interior of the cloud. Holding a sharp awl, the skeletal hand was surrounded by the Thousand Tribulations Ghost King. The Thousand Tribulation Ghost King's soul split into thousands of pieces and merged into every stone. Then, like a storm, they smashed towards Baigu's white bone body. His body of white bones seemed to be made of divine steel. No matter how the rocks hit him, there was not a single crack. From time to time, the black scepter, which looked like a sky-reaching stone pillar, would also swing and give white bones a heavy blow. Yu Yuan's expression changed slightly. Deep underground, the nether river that was closely related to the white bones once again transmitted the will of the source of the Yin vein. The Black Cane Ghost King was still in the land of terror. Only a small part of Black Cane's soul had left the black cloud. It turned into a streak of dark light and was pulled away by the soul-refining pool through the spatial passage. Most of his soul was still hiding inside the black scepter and attacking Baigu. I was overconfident. I thought that I could make the Black Cane Ghost King careless and let all of his soul leave the black cloud. It turns out that in the Black Cane Ghost King's eyes, I'm only a Yin spirit. I'm not worthy of him using his full strength. He thought that 1/4 of his soul power would be enough to kill me. Yu Yuan immediately understood. After a bitter smile, he immediately dispelled his depression and forced himself to calm down. He thought seriously about how he could help Baigu. At this time, Baigu suddenly spoke again, "Don't come in." This time, it was different from last time when the Cauldron Soul, Yue, informed him in a roundabout way. This time, Baigu was fighting against the Thousand Tribulations Ghost King and the Black Scepter inside the black cloud. He was distracted and said those words. It didn't need to worry that any specters would listen to it. The Black Cane Ghost King didn't show himself. Instead, he hid inside the scepter, as if he was waiting for Nie Tian to step into the black cloud and enter Black Cane's territory. All of a sudden, Yu Yuan figured out what had happened. The Black Cane Ghost King had lost 1/4 of his soul, which meant that he was injured. He wouldn't be able to recover unless the part of Black Cane that had gone to the forbidden land of the falling moons returned to the land of terror and merged with him. The injured Black Cane wouldn't dare to leave the black cloud and attack Nie Tian a second time with his soul. After all, Black Cane was afraid that the spatial passage would appear again. Therefore, by hiding inside the scepter, Nie Tian had mistakenly thought that Black Cane had been brought into the forbidden land of the falling moons, and that Baigu and Thousand Tribulations were the only ones fighting in the black cloud. Black Cane was waiting for him to walk into the trap. The fact that Baigu had told him not to come in meant that it knew Black Cane's intentions and that he was still alive. Baigu didn't tell him that Black Cane was still alive because it was the only one who knew that he had reached an agreement with the source of the Yin spirit. With the help of the source of the Yin spirit, he had become a nether god and communicated with the source of the Yin spirit through the nether river. The source of the Yin spirit had given Baigu the nether river, and Baigu was using the power of the nether river to fight Black Cane and Thousand Tribulations. Baigu must have sensed Nie Tian's communication with the source of the Yin spirit, and knew that the source of the Yin spirit had warned Nie Tian that Black Cane was still alive. A series of thoughts flashed across Yu Yuan's mind like lightning bolts, and he quickly understood what was going on. Baigu had told him not to come in because it knew that Black Cane's attention had shifted from Baigu to Nie Tian. Black Cane had pretended to attack Baigu, but in fact, he had been waiting for Nie Tian to come in. I need to get rid of those black clouds. Otherwise, Baigu won't be able to unleash his full power. I need to find a way. With a plan in mind, Yu Yuan chose to listen to Baigu. He stood outside the black clouds, holding the shrunken fiend demon cauldron in one hand and the scabbard in the other. After a while, he suddenly had a flash of inspiration and thought of something. ZZZT. A spark of flame flew out of Yu Yuan's hand, which was holding the scabbard, and shot towards the black spot not far away. This fire was like a small burning sun, burning fiercely and blooming with dazzling flames. After the first dot of fire there was a second dot, a third dot, and a fourth. Like small suns, the fiery sparks, which carried blazing heat and released the light of the sun, fell towards the strange heaven and earth created by the dark magic energy within the black scepter. Refined sun flame. Why does that kid's method of activating the refined sun flame look a little like the Nine Lights heavenly wheel? It can't be right. As the cultivators of the Tianyuan continent cried out in surprise, the small suns fell into the darkness. The small suns were the refined sun flame that Yu Yuan had refined in his body back then. They came from one of the Chaos Koan's eyes, and that I was made from a sun refined by the Chaos Koan. The small suns fell into the depths of the black abyss and caused 1,000 ripples. ZZZT ZZZT ZZZT. Every dot of refined sun flame was like a sharp blade cutting through a black curtain. They actually tore apart a small world of black abyss. Even Yu Yuan was caught off guard by such a change. How can the refined sun flame refined from one of the Chaos Koan's eyes be so terrifying? He was shocked when he saw the dots of refined sun flame tear apart the world of black abyss. He suddenly regretted not leaving a few dots behind. Back then, he had refined a total of 8 dots of refined sun flame to forge the life altar in his body. He had used some to melt the giant beast essence amber, and then used some when refining medicine. After he obtained the fiend demon cauldron and the scabbard, he didn't pay much attention to the refined sun flame. He didn't think that the refined sun flame's power would be that great. But now, he instantly changed his opinion of the refined sun flame. This isn't ordinary refined sun flame. It's refined sun flame refined by the giant star beast that refined the sun and gave it extra power. Chao Jiaza of the Xuantianzong sect was speechless when he felt the terrifying power of the dark abyss. This kid is wasting resources. Isn't the power of a few dots of refined sun flame a little too exaggerated? Someone from the Spirit Void sect exclaimed. This is the right medicine for the problem. Before the Black Staff Ghost King died, the devil art he cultivated should be related to darkness. The Black Abyss devil energy released from the Black Staff turned the area into absolute darkness. It was so dark that one couldn't even see their own fingers. The light inside White Bone's body can only purify the tainted souls. It can't restore light to the world of Black Abyss. The primal Chaos Koan refined the sun and formed the solar essence flame with such divine power. The flames and light released by the sun in his eyes can expel the dark abyss devil energy and turn the world of Black Abyss into a world of light with the sun's light. Chao Jiaza clicked his tongue in wonder. It seems that Yu Yuan never knew how powerful and magical the refined sun flame refined from the Chaos Koan's eyes is. Speaking up to this point, that vast dark world had actually been torn into pieces because of the specks of sun essence fire. The refined sun flame was still burning. As the light dimmed, the flame energy and the light of the sun were consumed. The small world of absolute darkness was burned to nothing and ceased to exist. Chapter 808. The tiny specks of refined sun flame fell into the darkness and burned away all of the dark energy in the area. None of the humans or ghosts present had expected the tiny specks of refined sun flame that flew out of Yu Yuan's palm to be so powerful. Before long, the world of darkness created by the Black Staff Ghoul King had disappeared without a trace. At this moment, there were still some sparks of the refined sun fire falling towards the huge black scepter. The sparks pierced into the black staff like red-hot needles and burned a tiny hole in it. In the next moment, a miraculous scene appeared. It was just a spark, just a tiny hole, but it was enough to trigger the remaining surging mana within the black scepter. The dark energy inside the staff continued to fill the tiny hole, preventing the refined sun flame from seeping into the depths of the black staff. The color of the black staff, which looked like a towering stone pillar, suddenly changed. It quickly turned from black to grayish-brown. This was the scepter that the Black Staff Ghost King had refined. As the dark magic energy within it rapidly flowed away, the scepter's grade was dropping, and its material was also damaged. Finally, the sparks of the refined sun fire burned out. The dark mana contained in the scepter was almost completely depleted during this process. Whoosh! Baigu turned into a streak of cold, silvery white lightning and entered the black staff through the tiny hole. Crack! Cracks immediately appeared on the giant staff after Baigu stepped into it. Baigu! The Black Staff Ghoul King's angry roar came from the giant staff like a thunderclap. At this moment, the many ghosts and people watching the battle suddenly came to a realization. Blackstaff hadn't disappeared from the forbidden land of fallen moons just because a wisp of his soul had been pulled into it. He was still alive. Not only was he alive, but he was also hiding inside the staff, waiting for an opportunity to strike. Let's fight to the death in this artifact from your previous life. Qianjie, if you're not afraid, you can come in and fight too. Baigu's proud voice rang out from within. However, without the dark energy, you'll have to think about whether you can withstand my soul-burning flame. Crack! The giant grayish-brown staff began to show signs of cracking after Baigu entered it. I'll just watch from the outside. As for inside, I won't join in the fun. Pa. The broken stones that were supposed to trap the white bones fell to the ground. The 1,000 tribulation souls inside the broken stones flew out one by one and gathered in front of everyone. Black Staff must have cultivated the Black Sky Demon art when he was alive. Inside the ship, old Demon Huang of the Tongtian Trading Company had a grave expression on his face. Even if Black Staff isn't a cultivator from the Devil's Palace, he's definitely related to that one. He didn't dare to address Black Staff by name, so he could only use that one instead. However, when everyone in the cabin heard him mention the Black Sky Demon art, they knew who he was talking about. Zhu Jinying, the number 2 figure in the Devil's Palace, had also cultivated the Black Sky Demon art to the extreme and used it to condense a primordial spirit. The dark magic energy inside the scepter was so pure that White Bone's hands and feet were tied inside. This was enough to explain everything. That area of darkness is the so-called Black Sky Demon Realm. Who would have thought that a few drops of pure sunflame would be able to break it? Old Demon Huang sighed with emotion. Now that the Black Sky Demon Realm has been broken and a part of Blackstaff's soul has been taken to the forbidden land of Falling Moon, he shouldn't be able to cause any trouble. Chen Yen of the Sword Sect frowned and said in a low voice, "That kid does have some tricks up his sleeve." Whoosh! Holding a flower basket in his hand, Luo Ho suddenly stood shoulder to shoulder with Yu Yuan. He gently bumped Yu Yuan with the flower basket in his hand and said with a beaming smile, "You didn't let me down. I knew you would find a way to break that Black Sky Demon Realm." Black Sky Demon Realm? Yu Yuan was taken aback. That Black Staff must have followed Mo Yan's old man and practiced the Black Sky Demon art with him. An unnatural expression appeared on Luo Ho's face as he talked about Zhu Jinying. The dark power inside the scepter must have been gathered from some dark abyss in the Starry River and infused into the scepter as a gift to Black Staff Ghoul King. Once the dark power was released, it formed the Black Sky Demon Realm, a mysterious dark world. White Bone's white flames and the light it emits are only destructive to spirits that don't have a physical body. Within the Black Sky Demon Realm, when faced with dark demonic energy that was different from soul energy, it naturally had no effect. However, the few specks of solar essence flame that left your palm had such horrifying might. Even I did not expect that. She wasn't stingy with her compliments for Yu Yuan. The primal chaos koan. Sensing that there wasn't a single drop of pure sunflame left in his golden hall small heaven and earth, Nye Tian thought back to how the primal Chaos Kuan had been able to locate him through the 8 drops of pure sunflame, allowing Lin Zhuyun to sneak over and kill him. All sorts of feelings welled up in his heart. The 8 drops of pure sunflame from the primal Chaos Kuan had been very useful when refining the giant beast essence amber and helping him build the life altar. The pure sunflame was also very useful when refining medicine. Now, when used against the enemy, the power displayed by the sun essence fire was even more unimaginable. Zhu Jinshi, who was in the primordial soul realm, had gathered dark energy from the dark abyss of the outer realms and released it to form the Black Sky Demon realm. Even so, the primordial chaos kraken had been burned to ashes by the refined sun fire. How powerful would it have been when it first descended upon the vast world? Now that the primal chaos Kuan had regained its freedom, wouldn't it be even more terrifying if it recovered to its peak? For some reason, when he thought of the primal chaos Kuan, he felt as if an enormous mountain was pressing down on his heart and suffocating him. Yu Yuan looked at Luo Ho and changed the topic, forcing himself not to think about the primal chaos Kuan. How did I get here? Luo Ho Ghost King smiled and glanced at Qian Jie, who was gathering his soul. White bone has entered that scepter. If there are no accidents, Black Scepter will follow Cold Abyss's footsteps and die in that scepter, just like Cold Abyss died in the ice gravestone. I'm here because I'm afraid that Thousand Tribulations won't dare to enter the scepter and interfere with the battle between White Bone and Black Staff's souls. I'm afraid that it will kill you instead. She paused and looked at Thousand Tribulations, who was gathering souls, and waved the flower basket in her hand. Thousand Tribulations, I respect you as a senior. As long as you don't attack first, I will remain silent. Thousand Tribulations Ghost King didn't respond. The souls scattered among the stones were still gathering. This should have been a good time for Luoho. If she chose to attack now, Thousand Tribulations would be in an extremely passive position. Thousand Tribulations Ghost King. The corner of Yu Yuan's mouth turned cold. Following the disappearance of the so-called Black Sky Demon realm, the giant scepter began to suffer damage from White Bone. His repressed emotions suddenly relaxed a lot. He started to think again about what method he should use to kill the Qian Chang underworld ghost and get rid of Mingdu. Every time he thought about the scene of Liu Chan's soul being torn apart by the Qian Chang dark ghost, he felt a stabbing pain in his heart. Even he didn't know why the death of the female general's Yin spirit made him feel so aggrieved. Who are you? Suddenly, the consciousness of the source of the Yin vein appeared from the nether river deep underground. This time, the consciousness of the source of the Yin vein was full of doubts and questions. In an extremely short amount of time, many complicated thoughts and questions were released and poured directly into his sea of consciousness. Yu Yuan's mind shook. He felt the suspicion of the source of the Yin vein. It seemed that if he didn't answer well, he would lose the trust and care of the source of the Yin vein. It was even possible that the source of the Yin vein would use other powers to kill him first. White Bone was the power the source of the Yin vein could use. What was going on? With this thought, more doubts of the source of the Yin vein surged into his mind. Also, they were full of hostility. He frowned and analyzed the consciousness of the source of the Yin vein as if he was facing a great enemy. He tried to figure out what the source of the Yin vein was worried and puzzled about. After a while, Yu Yuan's expression became extremely dark. Who am I? The source of the Yin vein's doubts came from the Soul Pool's unconditional support for him. It came from the entire Fallen Moon Forbidden Land, including the evil god statue and all kinds of hidden restrictions. They were overly friendly to him. When the remnant sword intent and sword power of a moon-severing realm cultivator was suppressed by the Soul Pool and couldn't unleash its wonders, the intimacy shown by the Soul Pool was too illogical. Through his own analysis, the source of the Yin vein came to an inconceivable conclusion. Yu Yuan hadn't lived 2 lives but 3. Before Hanch there was another person. That person had deceived everyone. Even the source of the Yin vein, who was in charge of reincarnation, couldn't find any trace of him. The first step was to be reincarnated or reborn as Hanch. In Hanch's previous life, because he hadn't entered the path of cultivation, he hadn't refined his Yin spirit or Yang spirit. Therefore, he hadn't even awakened them, and all of his memories of his previous life had been concealed. Hanch seemed to be an accident, or perhaps he had been forced to go into hiding. The source of the Yin vein didn't know the details. It could only believe that the current Yu Yuan was actually his 3rd life. Chapter 809. Who are you? The will of the source of the Yin spirit was accurately expressed through the Nether River. Its inference made Yu Yuan's body go stiff, as if he had been struck by lightning. I had another life before Hanch? Yu Yuan stood there motionlessly with a blank expression on his face. The impact of this news on his mind was too great. He was so shocked that he didn't know what to do. How is this possible? He racked his brains, but couldn't come up with a single clue. He had never sensed that other memories existed in his soul other than those of Hanch. However, according to the source of the Yin spirit, the soul-transforming lake and the evil idol in the Forbidden Land couldn't have approached him of their own accord. Practicing the great Yin soul incantation and the extreme wisdom soul-tempering incantation alone wouldn't be enough to explain those miraculous events, unless the soul-transforming lake and the evil idol knew something about his origin. Strange images suddenly appeared in his mind. He remembered that he had fainted for a while in the dark realm Azura's small heaven and earth. He remembered that an enormous illusory soul had appeared. Both Yu-Tu and Old Devil Huang had told him in different ways that something had happened while he was unconscious, and that something had destroyed the discarnate soul of the dark realm Azura. Then, he remembered that the evil idol in the sword prison had invaded his sea of awareness with its evil awareness in the great lake of the desolate god. As a result, his self-awareness had gained the upper hand. Not only had he not been possessed by the idol, but it had also obediently followed his will and acted according to his will. In fact, when the idol had been sent to the forbidden land of the falling moons by Yen Qiling, he had sensed the idol's reverence for him. Could it be? As soon as this thought appeared in his mind, he recalled the question he had asked the source of the Yin spirit. The source of the Yin spirit was the miraculous being that controlled the reincarnation of all living beings in the Howren. The source of the Yin spirit had learned every detail about him from Hanch's reincarnation when it had first communicated with him. According to the source of the Yin spirit, no living being in the Howren could avoid its reincarnation. It was the god of life, death, and reincarnation. But just now it said that it had deduced that he had 3 lives, but it couldn't find any clues about his first life. Being able to deceive the heavenly secrets and make it unable to find any traces of reincarnation was what made it suspicious and even hostile. As soon as this thought appeared in his mind, he sensed the existence of the source of the Yin vein and said helplessly, "I don't know if your deduction is true or false. However, I was completely unaware of it and did not feel anything. All my memories are limited to Hanch, nothing else." He tried to explain to the source of the Yin vein, hoping to gain the approval of the source of the Yin vein and dispel its suspicions and hostility. Inside the Nether River, the underground will of this world listened quietly. For a long time there was no response. It was as if the source of the Yin vein was also re-examining this matter. It was also pondering what kind of existence could deceive the heavens, bypass it, and carry out reincarnation in its territory, in the domain it controlled. Yu Yuan, Rahu frowned slightly and kept muttering. Yu Yuan suddenly woke up. "I've been talking to you for so long. Why didn't you react at all?" Rahu rebuked and rolled her eyes at him. "The battle is not over yet. What are you thinking about? When she said this, Yu Yuan reacted. No one had sensed anything unusual when communicating with the source of the Yin vein. Nether Capital. Suddenly, he started to worry about the Nether Capital Ghost King hiding in the dark. He wondered if the former ruler of the Land of Terror had sensed his communication with the source of the Yin vein. The black staff is finished. Raho laughed softly and pointed at the giant staff. I can feel that the Nether River in the Black Staff's territory has stopped flowing, just like the one in the Cold Abyss. Once a Ghost King died, the Nether River gifted to them by the source of the Yin vein would dry up. For example, the one below that belonged to the Yu Ling Ghost King had stopped flowing after Yu Ling reincarnated. Then, when Yu Ling returned as a skeleton and became a Ghost King again, it would flow again. Yu Yuan glanced over and saw that the giant scepter had unknowingly broken into pieces. White flames were still burning inside the broken staff, as if they were burning something. Didn't a wisp of the black staff's soul enter the fallen moon Forbidden Land earlier? Yu Yuan suddenly asked in confusion. He should have been killed even earlier. Raho looked at him with fear in her eyes as she said this. The fact that the Nether River in the Black Staff's territory no longer flows means that the Black Staff is dead. As long as a wisp of his soul remains, the Nether River in the Netherworld will never dry up. Do you understand? Raho found it strange. You brought a wisp of the Black Staff's soul into the Forbidden Land. Don't you know how terrifying the aura of the soul refining pool is? Even she had kept quiet out of fear because of the appearance of the soul refining pool. Yu Yuan nodded slowly. I understand. Crack. The tip of the huge scepter exploded, revealing the shrunken white bones. Holding a sharp awl, it stood in the middle of the shattered scepter, and said with a cold and emotionless voice, 1,000 tribulations. Yu Yuan looked around and discovered that the 1,000 tribulations Ghost King, who had been gathering wisps of his soul earlier, was nowhere to be found. Qianjie has returned to his territory. Rahu's words were both an answer to Yu Yuan and a message to White Bones. He's returned? Frigid Abyss and the Black Staff died one after another. 2 Ghost Kings died in such a short time. This is unprecedented in the history of the Land of Terror. However, White Bones's battle prowess didn't drop after killing the 2 Ghost Kings. On the contrary, it continued to rise. Qianjie saw the unfavorable situation and decided to break his agreement with everyone, so he retreated to his territory and hid. Rahu saw everything clearly. If Qianjie wanted to escape, White Bones couldn't. In fact, he could have left the Land of Terror for a while and gotten rid of all the troubles. Now that Qianjie has escaped, the rest will be easy. Yu Yuan smiled sinisterly. The only ones left are the 8 subordinates of the Dark Nether Capital and the white-robed ghost. As if in reply, White Bones said, I'll do it. Yu Yuan turned around and found that the white-robed ghost and the 8 ancient ghosts had scattered and gone in different directions. When His Highness's body returns from the outer world, it will be the time of your deaths. As the white-robed ghost left, his voice rang out. Frigid Abyss and the Black Staff don't deserve to be Ghost Kings. After they die, we will take him and become the new Ghost Kings. Just you wait. As soon as he finished speaking, the white-robed ghost turned into wisps of white smoke and disappeared. Qian Chang Ghost. Yu Yuan's expression was cold. He released the baleful demon cauldron from his hand and stepped into it. The cauldron's soul instantly locked onto the Qian Chang ghost and flew into the air. To everyone's surprise, the soul-transforming pool floating above Yu Yuan's head moved along with the fiend demon cauldron's roar. It's too strange. In Xuantianzong, Chao Jiazi had been paying attention to the soul pool since the beginning. Seeing the pool move, he frowned deeply. According to the sect master, that pool is the formation Eye of the Ceiling Heaven Soul Pool formation. This formation used to belong to the Shenhun sect long ago, and it contains incomparably profound soul power. Chao Jiazi rubbed his eyes. It shouldn't be like this. He was also re-examining this matter, and thinking carefully about what kind of magic Yu Yuan had that could make the soul pool follow him from afar. Chapter 8:10. Above his head, Yu Yuan, who had a soul pool following after him, looked extremely dazzling. However, the fiendish demon cauldron whistled as it moved. It had clearly locked onto the Qian Chang ghost, but suddenly, Yu Yuan found that the distance between him and the ancient ghost was increasing. There was a mysterious power that seemed to be pulling the distance between them. The distance between him and the Qian Chang ghost shouldn't be that far, but when he really chased after it, he saw the Qian Chang ghost move further and further away, as if it was supported by divine power. And when he chased after it, he felt extremely uncomfortable, dizzy, and nauseous. Dark Nether Capital. Ghost King Luoho, who didn't move with White Bones and Yu Yuan, had a grim expression. In the Land of Terror, the only artifact that could change space and teleport was the soul-crossing river. What Luoho didn't expect was that the Dark Nether Capital Ghost King could use the soul-crossing river to cast a spell and help his 8 subordinates and the white-robed ghost escape. She narrowed her eyes and looked carefully. She could see layers of ripples in space in front of Yu Yuan and White Bones. With each ripple, Yu Yuan and White Bones were further away from the Qian Chang ghost and the white-robed ghost. Yu Yuan and White Bones could only sigh as they watched them disappear into the distance. Not long after, the 8 ghosts and the white-robed ghost disappeared without a trace. After a while, the strange spatial power disappeared. Yu Yuan's face was gloomy, and he was in a bad mood. He controlled the fiendish demon cauldron and turned back. Dark Nether Capital's power is recovering. He can use the soul-crossing river to affect space here. This means that he also benefited from the deaths of Frost Abyss and Black Staff. White Bones stopped in the air, and a hint of worry appeared in the depths of its green eyes. Yu Yuan said curiously, Dark Nether Capital will also become stronger because of the deaths of Black Staff and Frost Abyss? White Bones nodded. I was the one who attacked directly, so I received part of the power. As for Mingdu, it's because he's too special. He doesn't have to do anything, but he can still become stronger through the death of the Ghost King. Ghoul King Luoho and the other ghostly beings present fell into deep thought after hearing the words of Yu Yuan and White Bones. When Yu Yuan came closer, Bai Gu glanced at Nziching intentionally or unintentionally. Underneath Nziching, Ghost King Chuling, who was wearing the spirit-locking diagram, wore a strange expression after hearing White Bones' words. At this moment, the Ghost Kings, Frigid Abyss, and Black Staff, who had rushed into the White Bones' jurisdiction died one after another, while Qian Jie fled. Bai Gu's strength exceeded everyone's expectations, surpassing even Chuling, Tian Tsang, and Rahu. It was regarded as the strongest Ghost King in the Land of Terror. The remaining spectators looked at White Bones in a different light. Lord White Bones! Lord White Bones, we are willing to follow you and pledge our loyalty to you. All of a sudden, many ghosts and souls with extraordinary auras swarmed over and bowed to White Bone in a flattering manner. Many of White Bone's subordinates had been killed by the titled phantoms, and the survivors had fled to other territories. The number of ghostly beings that were still loyal to him was pitifully small. These ghostly beings at the level of heavenly ghosts and phantoms had witnessed the rise of White Bones and made a decision. Get out of my territory, all of you! Dangerous flames burned in the depths of White Bones' jade-green eyes. Its voice was as cold as the icy tombstone. I'm different from Mingdu. I don't need subordinates. The ghostly beings that wanted to beg for mercy panicked when they saw the flames in the depths of White Bones' eyes. They didn't even have the courage to speak again. They were also worried that White Bones would attack them in a rage, so they scattered. I've seen Lord White Bones' might. Chao Jiaza of Xuantianzong smiled and bowed to White Bones. I look forward to your battle with Lord Mingdu. Finished speaking, He swaggered around and released the heavenly palace seal, turning it back into a majestic palace. All of the Een gods from the Tianyuan continent entered one by one, flying away in the dazzling palace. He's very powerful. White Bones stared at the palace in the sky and said to Yu Yuan with a serious expression, I have a feeling that he'll be your strongest opponent. His blood, and energy are pure. If he wants to, he can temper his yang spirit at any moment. A cold bolt of lightning flashed in the depths of White Bones' jade-green eyes. Does he want to temper his yang spirit in the land of terror? And Ziqing, the people from the Merchant Association on the Cloud Travel Ship, and the people from the Sword Sect all paled when they heard this. Whoosh! Yu Yuan took out the enormous icy tombstone after the fiend demon cauldron landed. He beckoned to Chen Qinyan and said, Come here. Cut off a part of the tombstone with inscriptions and bring it back with you. Chen Qinyan was pleasantly surprised. Thank you, big brother Yu. Then she turned around and looked at Chen Yen. Chen Yen hesitated for a moment and said, Go. A smile appeared at the corner of Chen Qingyan's mouth as she hurriedly flew away from the Cloud Travel Ship and towards Yu Yuan. At the same time, with a thought from Yuan Lianyao, who he had left in the small world inside the cauldron, flew out of the cauldron. Through Yue, the blazing red lotus knew that the battle had come to an end and what had just happened. Her beautiful eyes rippled with a strange light as she looked at Yu Yuan with a smile, but she didn't say anything. At this time, Chen Qingyan's Een God and the Frost Serpent sword flew over. Sister Yuan, it's good that you're fine, Chen Qingyan greeted with a smile. At this time, Yuan Lianyao's attitude was a little cold. She nodded and remained silent. From Chen Yan's words and actions, she knew that the Sword of Star and Frost branch of the Sword sect probably didn't have any good intentions towards Yu Yuan except for this pure-hearted little girl. Thinking of the future, she didn't think that Chen Qinyan would be as close to Yu Yuan as before. However, she had already made up her mind. No matter what happened to Yu Yuan in the future, she wouldn't care even if he abandoned the Howren world. Can you fly on a sword? Yu Yuan asked. It's difficult to fly on a sword with the Een God in the outside world. But here, it's possible. Chen Qinyan replied with a smile. After the Frost Serpent sword that she had refined was unsheathed, it actually pulled out a dazzling galaxy of stars. Just as the sword intent within was about to rejoice, it seemed to smell another aura, and its light suddenly dimmed. In the distance, Chen Yen of the Sword of Star and Frost Branch had an extremely ugly expression. Chen Qingyan's delicate face was filled with astonishment. She looked at the scabbard in Yu Yuan's hand and said in a low voice, Big brother Yu, you should put away your scabbard. The sword intent inside the Frost Serpent sword, which she used to derive enlightenment from sword incantations, was afraid of Yu Yuan's scabbard. The sword intent at the bottom of the scabbard had come from the Moon's Severing Realm cultivator, who had suppressed the Sword of Star and Frost for many years. It was only during Jining Shuang's generation that the Sword of Star and Frost finally started to rise. Yu Yuan's eyebrows furrowed as he asked, The sword intent inside your Frost Serpent's sword doesn't belong to you? My master infused it into my Frost Serpent sword with a secret magic so that I can derive enlightenment from it. Chen Qinyan bowed her head and said, I didn't expect that the sword intent of the older generation would be. She didn't finish her sentence. The bones suddenly looked up. Yu Yuan, who sensed something, jerked his head up as well. Immediately afterwards, he discovered that the soul-transforming lake had disappeared without a trace. At the same time, the connection between his nether soul and the soul-transforming lake, as well as the connection between his nether soul and the space under the forbidden land of the fallen moons, where the words "extreme wisdom is fatal" were written in black. Furthermore, the connection between him and the source of the Een spirit vein was also severed. With a grim expression, he immediately realized that the source of the Een spirit vein must have closed after the battle had ended, and the connection between him and the forbidden land of the fallen moons had been cut off. What happened? The bone's eyes shone with the light of wisdom, as it was the first to sense that something was wrong. Is there something wrong between you and it? Yu Yuan glanced around. After a moment of hesitation, he didn't say anything. It was a specter just now, and now it's a human. Get out of my territory, the bones said coldly. Ma Jianjiang from the Tongtian Trading Company wanted to say something on the cloud travel ship. Chen Yen from the Sword Sect looked at Chen Qinyan and wanted to say that he was waiting for her. Get out of here now, the bones said in an unyielding tone as it fixed its gaze on Chen Yen and the other Sword Sect disciples. If you don't, you'll die. Ma Jianjiang's expression flickered as he steered the cloud travel ship away without any hesitation or concern for Chen Qinyan. Soon, the cloud travel ship was nowhere to be seen. The bone's eyes then landed on An Ziqing, who was wearing a purple divine armor. What's the meaning of this? It asked Chuling. I want to talk to you. Chapter 8:11. Since Bai Gu had asked Chuling the question, it was naturally Chuling who had answered. Chen Qingyan's expression flickered slightly. He hadn't expected that there would be such a mysterious being hiding under An Ziqing's feet. Yu Yuan and Luo Ho's expressions were calm. Clearly, they knew what was going on. All right. Bai Gu's voice was somewhat unsteady. The reason for that was because the instant he opened his mouth, he had penetrated deep into the ground. In a breath's time, he and Chuling, who was hiding under An Ziqing's feet, were in the same area. I want to talk too. Without asking for their opinions, Luo Ho, who was holding a flower basket, also flew into the ground like a wisp of colorful smoke. In the blink of an eye, the three ghoul kings went from the surface of the earth to a small heaven and earth. Yu Yuan narrowed her eyes and discovered that she could sense the existence of three souls 40 meters underground with her own divinity even without her careful observation. Further down, he could see the nether river that was made of bones. However, he could no longer sense the will of the origin of the Een spirit from the nether river. I can sense Bai Gu, Luo Ho, and Chuling in the land of terror. As for Ghost Monarch Chuling, the moment I stepped out of the ground, I already knew his exact location. Nye Tian suddenly realized that after he had entered the nether divinity stage in the land of terror, his nether divinity had become unusually sensitive to Ghoul King's souls. This sensitivity wasn't just because his earthly soul had entered the nether divinity stage. Instead, it was because he had entered the land of terror and entered the nether divinity stage. It turned out that the location of his breakthrough was so important. There are some rules that even the origin of the Een spirit can't go against or change. A thought suddenly flashed across his mind, and he realized that even though the source of the Een spirit veins had questioned his identity and cut off his soul connection with the forbidden land of the falling moons, he still possessed some miraculous abilities because his Een spirit had been transformed in this heaven and earth. For example, he could sense the presence of ghoul kings with his nether divinity. If a ghost king were to deliberately hide its tracks, apart from a ghost king of the same level, the underworld ghosts, heavenly ghosts, and ghost spirits below would not be able to sense anything. The fact that he could accurately determine the location and movements of the three ghost kings through his Een deity was a kind of miraculous ability. With that thought in mind, he tried to spread out his perception again. His soul power was like a net, with him as the center, spreading out in all directions, every living soul within a 25-kilometer radius, regardless of whether it was a human or a ghost, was quietly reflected in his sea of awareness. He knew the trajectory of the cloud cruiser and sensed old demon Huang, Jin Shaolai, Chen Yan, and the others. However, Chao Jiazi was controlling the majestic palace, and the Een deities that fell into it did not feel anything. This meant that the speed of the palace was much faster than that of the cloud cruiser. It was also possible that Chen Yan wanted to wait for Chen Qinyan, and thus told Ma Jianjiang not to let the cloud cruiser leave too soon. Let's wait and see. His soul power continued to expand outwards, but he suddenly felt that it was becoming more and more strenuous, and the consumption of his soul power suddenly increased. It seems that the range of 50 kilometers is probably the limit of my current perception. I can even find Chuling, White Bone, and Rahu. This means that if I enter Grey Mama's territory, I can find Jiang Xingwen, the 8 ghosts, and even the Dark Nether capital. When he thought of this, he helplessly withdrew his soul power. So what if he found them? The Dark Nether capital had the soul-crossing river. With this wondrous soul artifact, they could instantly travel through space and send White Robe and the 8 ghosts away. At this time, as long as the Dark Nether capital refused to fight head-on, he would not be able to trap them even if he found them. A trace of exhaustion quietly rose in his heart. Yu Yuan calmed down and pondered for a moment. He realized that he had used up some soul power to sense the surroundings with his soul power. Because he had lost the favor of the source of the Yin vein, he could not use the incomparably pure and boundless Yin energy in an instant to quickly regenerate his soul power. That was why he was somewhat exhausted. Big brother Yu, I'm done. It was also at this time that a beautiful girl with a ponytail used the Frost Dragon sword, which shone with cold starlight, to pick up an Ice Soul Frost crystal. A line of words was engraved on the Ice Soul Frost crystal: Sword Sect, Star Frost Sword, Du Binghai's tomb. The Ice Soul Frost crystal, which was as long as a sword and as wide as 4 fingers, had bits of starlight shining inside. It was unknown whether it was the sword intent Du Binghai had comprehended in the past or some kind of mark he had left behind. Yu Yuan did not mind. He nodded and said, "Be good and go find that Chen Yen. Also, the Land of Terror has not been peaceful recently. If possible, choose to come here next time to train." Chen Qinyan looked at him strangely. "Why does the way you speak sound like my master?" Yu Yuan's face was stiff. "Then treat me as your master. Anyway, take the things and leave one by one." Chen Qinyan wanted to say that he was not much older than him, but when he met Yu Yuan's eyes, he did not know why he felt guilty. "All right, I actually have a lot of things to say to you. But I promised that I would not be too close to you here. Otherwise, it will bring trouble to my master." "Go," Yu Yuan urged. "Oh." The girl's beautiful soul shadow landed on the Frost Dragon sword and looked at Yu Yuan with reluctance. When Yu Yuan waved his hand again, she sighed and said, "Big brother Yu, you have to be good." Swoosh! The Frost Dragon sword suddenly shot into the distance like a dragon shaking its head and wagging its tail. The aura of extreme coldness it exuded was exactly the same as the aura of the 9 hells' frigid abyss. That sword, Anzicheng saw something but couldn't be sure, so she whispered to herself, "Yu Yuan, it's so strange. Why do you look so old when you talk to Chen Yao?" Yuan Lianyao found it funny. At first, she was a little worried that Yu Yuan might like Chen Qinyan. But after observing carefully, she found that Yu Yuan's eyes when she looked at Chen Qinyan were very clean. That gaze was the kind of doting that a senior would look at a junior. She was very puzzled. Although she didn't understand, her worried heart was relieved because of this. It's hard to explain in a few words. Yu Yuan pondered for a moment, then grabbed the remaining enormous Frost Soul Frost crystal and threw it at the fiendish demon cauldron. He sent a thought to the cauldron's soul Yui. "Let Consort Han refine it. Why don't you keep such a large piece of 10,000-year-old Frost Soul Frost crystal and give it to your fiancé?" And Zicheng jerked the corner of her mouth and said in a strange tone, "If that girl obtains this Frost Soul Frost crystal, she should be able to refine a young spirit body. Maybe you can bury the hatchet and turn the marriage contract into a reality." Yuan Lianyao smiled sweetly. Who knows? After Frost Abyss and Black Staff were killed by White Bone, Qian Jie fled without a fight, and the souls of many ghosts disappeared, the 2 women's heavy hearts relaxed. Both Ziqing and Yuan Lianyao didn't have a good impression of Li Yuchan. One of Li Yuchan's Yin spirits was torn apart by the Qian Chang nether ghost. Yu Yuan was affected, but they were not. Whoosh! Unexpectedly, the fiendish demon cauldron released by Yu Yuan flew away on its own. That cauldron? And Ziqing exclaimed softly. It will move around White Bone's territory, gather some suitable ghosts, and refine them into fiendish demons. Yu Yuan secretly communicated with Yu Yi and casually explained. The fiendish demons in the small world inside the cauldron had suffered great casualties. Fortunately, the land of terror had no shortage of ghosts. Right now, he believed that even without the fiendish demon cauldron, he could protect himself. Moreover, he was in White Bone's territory now. He didn't need the cauldron by his side at all times. Yu Yi controlled the fiendish demon cauldron and appeared in the nearby territories. It should have no problem devouring ghosts. He wasn't worried that some stupid ghosts would recklessly attack the fiendish demon cauldron at this time. I want to find a Yin mountain and try to let my Yin spirit leave my body to study some things. Yu Yuan looked at the two women and said, "Wait a moment. After the three finish talking, you can make other decisions." "I want to go with you," Yuan Lianyao said. "Not this time." Yu Yuan shook his head and refused. "Why?" "I can't predict what will happen after my Yin spirit leaves my body in the land of terror." Chapter 8:12. In the territory next to White Bone. At the foot of a Yin mountain that was neither tall nor short, the nether capital Ghost King's tall soul shadow floated out of the soul-crossing river, floating in the air, and appeared openly. 9 fist-sized glowing balls of Yin energy swelled before suddenly exploding. Space twisted and shook. The white-robed ghost and the 8 ancient ghosts led by the Qianqiang ghost immediately came out of the balls of Yin energy. After their soul shadows fell, they all knelt at the nether capital Ghost King's feet. "This subordinate is useless." The Qianqiang ghost, who looked like a golden-armored giant, buried his head in the ground and used his hair to absorb the Yin energy underground as he called out humbly. Including the white-robed ghost, none of the other ghosts dared to raise their heads. The soul-crossing river flowed slowly behind the nether capital like a nether river that had left the earth. His majestic soul shadow stood in front of the soul-crossing river like a god of death. Narrowing his eyes, he looked down at his subordinates who looked unusually uneasy. After a long time, he said, "Rise." One after another, the 9 ghosts finally rose from their crouching position and looked at the nether capital in front of them fearfully. "Your Highness, you can come out?" The Qianqiang ghost, who had followed the nether capital the longest and proved his loyalty 1,000 years ago, suddenly became excited when he found that the nether capital in front of him was not a projection, but a gathering of part of his soul. "Frost Abyss is dead, and so is Black Staff. I gained some power from their death." The nether capital's expression was cold. "You were wrong to let Luo Ho and Qian Jie die." He looked back at the soul-crossing river with a face full of hatred. At the bottom of the river, wisps of crimson sword energy looked like tiny crimson lightning. "If either one of them dies, I'll be able to destroy Yu Yuan's soul with a spell from afar." The nether capital snorted, clearly dissatisfied with his subordinate's work. "Unlike now, when the enemy finds me, I have to hide again. I've been hiding for more than 1,000 years. One more day is torture." He suddenly looked at Cloud Sky. The body he had refined back then was getting closer and closer. It was so close that he could feel it even in the land of terror. "Your Highness, we've already endured for 1,000 years. Why would a few more days matter?" The white-robed man smiled flatteringly. "When your Highness's body returns, your soul and body will merge into one. Who in this terrifying land will be able to escape your Highness's punishment?" Between Qian Jie and Luo Ho, if one of them dies, the process of merging with my body will be much faster. Mingdu's face was cold as he looked at his subordinates who didn't know what was going on. He waved his hand impatiently. Go to Thousand Calamities territory and keep an eye on him. Don't let him escape from the land of terror. If Tian Tsung refuses to come back, he will ruin my plan. Understood. The underworld ghosts quietly retreated. Whoosh! Jiang Xingwen's Yin spirit floated out from the Yin mountain behind the dark north capital. Her soul seemed to be sick. Her illusory spirit looked sickly and weak. Why do you want the Ghost King dead? Jiang Xingwen asked. Mingdu quickly turned around and gently held her hand. Don't ask so much. Rest well in Yin Mountain. I know that you're not in a good state because of me. Believe me, when I ascend to the Ghost God realm, you'll be as good as new. I promise you that when the time comes, I'll take you and soar through the vast universe. At that time, whether it's underground, the nascent soul of this world, or the Yao gods, none of them will be able to stop me. I believe you. On a very short Yin mountain. At the bottom of the mountain, Yu Yuan temporarily ignored everything and sat quietly. If he didn't dispel the doubts and misgivings of the source of the Yin vein, his subsequent actions in the land of terror would be restricted. Many of his ideas couldn't be realized. Yin spirit, leave my body. As soon as this thought appeared in his mind, another clear but illusory Yu Yuan formed by countless soul power and soul thoughts slowly floated out of his glabella. An instant later, this Yu Yuan floated and landed on the head of his true body. He was like a god or a living Buddha standing above the fleshly body. However, in just an instant, his Yin spirit started to wobble and sway. The Yin spirit in the form of a spirit had just left his physical body. He couldn't get used to it yet. Even the simple act of stabilizing his soul shadow was difficult for him. He started to learn how to move freely in his soul form. After a while, he could finally stop moving freely. He moved left and right, up and down, up and down. There's a familiar feeling. In his previous life, he couldn't step onto the path of cultivation. His earthly soul had never been refined. Naturally, he couldn't condense a Yin spirit. Naturally, he couldn't experience a soul leaving his body. But now, when his Yin spirit left the small world in his mind, he felt a sense of familiarity. Could it be that what it said was true? He looked at himself with his Yin spirit. He saw an extremely small sword mark on the arm bone of his physical body. He also sensed the existence of the sword soul. The sword soul suddenly enlarged in his eyes. It was a small crimson ball of light. There were intertwining soul thoughts and sword seals inside. The intertwining soul thoughts were the sword soul. When he tried to sense it, he was surprised to find that the sword soul was like a frightened bird hiding in a node of his bones. The remnant sword soul of a moon-severing realm cultivator was actually very afraid of his Yin spirit. The sword that shattered the moon had split into 3 parts. The blade was gone. The sword soul and the scabbard fell into his hands. The scabbard hid sword intent and sword power. The sword soul was branded on his arm bone. In the past, every time he sensed the sword soul, it was different. Fear, Yu Yuan suddenly remembered the soul transforming pool that had appeared above his head not long ago. He remembered that the sword mark and sword intent on the pool's wall had been covered by black soul energy. The soul transforming pool had broken free from the control of the sword intent left by the moon-severing realm cultivator. It had regained its freedom and its original appearance. Could it be that the sword soul's fear is because of the connection between me and the soul transforming pool? Is it afraid of the soul transforming pool or me? Or is it another me? He observed himself in his Yin spirit form and also looked at his flesh and blood, trying to find some clues to prove that the inference of the source of the Yin meridians was true. He looked again and again, examining the Yin spirit, the heavenly soul, and the main soul. But he found nothing. Time continued to pass. He was at the bottom of Yin Mountain, constantly thinking, constantly looking, wanting to find an answer, wanting to know the truth. After an unknown period of time, he, who was thinking hard but couldn't find an answer, suddenly sensed the existence of the source of the meridians again. Then, uncontrollably, he instantly sank into the depths of the earth. In an instant, he appeared at the Nether River in the Netherworld again. This time, it was not his soul that was in one, but his spirit. His true body was still on the mountain above. His spirit was surprised to see that the Nether River in the Netherworld had become much wider, and the flow of the water in it had become much more turbulent. He immediately realized that because of the death of the Black Staff and the Cold Abyss, and because the two Ghost Kings were killed by Baigu, the Nether River in the Netherworld of the two Ghost Kings stopped flowing. Baigu acted on behalf of the will of the source of the meridians and was rewarded, so Baigu's Nether River in the Netherworld was much wider. This also meant that Baigu's power had increased greatly. Lion. The will of the source of the meridians appeared in this space. There were no words or soul thoughts. However, Yu Yuan clearly understood that the source of the meridians wanted his spirit to lie in the place where Baigu's predecessor, Yuling Ghost King, used to be. His soul lie in the Nether River in the Netherworld? He suddenly hesitated. The source of the meridians was different from normal life. When it was full of doubts about him, he would completely listen to its orders and lie in the Nether River in the Netherworld, not knowing what would happen. If he really had 3 lives, and the unknown first life had a grudge with the source of the meridians, then the Nether River in the Netherworld was controlled by it. It could use the power of the rules of the Land of Fear, and use the Nether River in the Netherworld to do many things. If he went in obediently, his life and death would be in the hands of the source of the meridians. Not to mention a small spirit. Yu Yuan stood there motionlessly. If you also want to know the truth, Lion, the will of the source of the meridians was born again. No. For some reason, Yu Yuan chose to refuse. He refused the will of the mastermind behind the Land of Fear. The agreement is invalid. I will leave the Land of Fear. Find someone else to deal with Nether Capital. Yu Yuan's spirit, which was in the form of a soul, floated in this space. With an indifferent expression that looked down on all living beings and all rules, he said, "Even you can't force me to do something I don't want to do." For some reason, when the source of the meridians ordered him to be obedient like a god, he instinctively resisted. His heart resisted being ordered by anyone, any existence, who was high above. Only I can order others. No one can order me. Even the master of this world, even the primordial spirits of Hauran heaven and earth, the demon gods of the outer galaxies, and the astral beasts can't make me obey. Yu Yuan's spirit slowly floated up and stopped above the Nether River in the Netherworld. He looked coldly at the river and said forcefully, "Send me away. Or I can think of a way to leave on my own. You only managed to condense your spirit with my help. No, you just made my spirit form faster. Without you, I would have condensed my spirit whether it was here or outside. No one can change this process." Yu Yuan and the source of the meridians argued. Chapter 8:13. It didn't seem like a good choice to reject the source of the vein. He had separated from Yuan Lianyao and Enziching and retreated to the bottom of the mountain in order to find a way to regain the recognition of the source of the vein and continue the previous agreement. However, when his soul left his body and was brought to this small world by the source of the vein again, he actually refused decisively after hesitating for a moment. Because of this, he and the will of the source of the vein had a fierce argument. The source of the vein was the will of the Land of Terror, the god of this world. After his soul was separated from his true body and brought into this space, he would undoubtedly be courting death if he fought against the source of the vein. However, he did it naturally. His attitude was unusually tough. Surprisingly, when he refused and unilaterally tore up the agreement and asked the source of the unveil to send him away, the will of this world fell silent again. In her soul form, Yu Yuan floated high up in the air above the vast nether river, experiencing a different sensation. The connection between his soul and his true body had never been broken. He knew that his true body was still at the bottom of the mountain. His heavenly soul and true soul had already stood up. At this moment, his true body walked out of the mountain. The three souls were connected. His soul and his true body made a decision at the same time. The first thing he did after leaving the mountain was to go to the hole in the ground where he had stepped out of the mountain. He knew that if he followed the hole, he would be able to go deep into the earth and reach the crack in the stone. Behind the crack in the stone was the small world where his soul was trapped. It was also the place where he had condensed his soul. His true body was holding the scabbard. Even if his soul left his body, he could still wield the scabbard. He might be able to pierce through the crack in the stone and open a passage for his soul to leave this place. He used his actions to tell the source of the vein that if it didn't want to send him away, he would do it himself. Yu Yuan, Yuan Lianyao and Enziching saw his true body moving rapidly on the ground. The two of them exclaimed in unison. The two of them could tell at a glance that something was wrong with his current situation. Before long, he arrived at the cave that led to the depths of the earth. Just as he was about to sink into it, Enziching, who was wearing a purple divine armor, rushed over with a serious expression. "What happened? Your spirit has left your body?" As a prodigy of the blood god's new generation, Enziching, who had many Dharma artifacts and treasures, could see that Yu Yuan was missing a soul. Naturally, it was the spirit that Yu Yuan had just condensed and could appear in the land of despair. Just like her and Yuan Lianyao, Yu Yuan's soul could move freely in the land of terror. However, without the protection of the fiendish demon cauldron and the natural barrier of his flesh and blood, Yu Yuan's spirit could easily be harmed if it left his body at this moment. For example, the Mingdu Ghost King, whose hiding place was unknown, could cast spells from a distance and destroy his weak spirit with a thought. And Zicheng knew some of the problems between Yu Yuan and the Nether Capital Ghost King. She also knew that a ghost like the Thousand Tribulations Ghost King had the power and methods to kill Yu Yuan's soul from thousands of miles away. And Zicheng stared at him and said in a serious tone, "White Bones, Rahu is busy with business and can't take care of you. It's very dangerous for your spirit to wander around at this time. Also, why are you going down now?" Yuan Lianyao finally flew over. Hearing Zicheng's words, her face was full of worry. "What's wrong?" "I'll explain later." Yu Yuan suddenly sank. Meanwhile, in the small underground space, Yu Yuan stared at the wide nether river and tried to communicate with the soul-refining lake in the forbidden land of the fallen moon with his spirit. The source of the spirit didn't respond. He didn't know what it meant. However, he knew that as long as he could communicate with the soul-refining lake, it meant that the source of the spirit had opened the seal, which was a sign of goodwill. He wanted to give it another try. As long as... His divinity was flabbergasted as it floated above the flowing nether river. All of a sudden, he sensed the existence of the soul-refining lake. The soul-refining lake didn't show up. Instead, his spirit sensed that the soul-refining lake was slowly rotating in the forbidden land of the fallen moon, as if it were actively searching for him. The psychic connection between him and the soul-refining lake was instantly established, but it wasn't with the permission of the source of the spirit. That was because he heard fizzing sound. The sound was like numerous extremely sharp sword lights that tore open the spatial barriers, pierced through the barriers of restrictions, and crushed the layers upon layers of obstructions. Without giving it much thought, He realized that the sword intent and sword lights within the numerous sword marks on the walls of the soul-refining lake must have morphed into swords that had opened some kind of heavenly barrier. It had forced its way in. The soul-refining lake had channeled the sword power left in the walls of the soul-refining lake to break through the spatial barriers in a way that he couldn't understand. From the forbidden land of the fallen moon on the Qian continent to the land of terror on the tranquil continent. This wasn't the source of the Yin spirit's acceptance or acknowledgement, but the soul-refining lake's provocation to the land of terror. It could even be called a threat. Yu Yuan hadn't expected that his Yin spirit would leave his body and be pulled into this small heaven and earth by the source of the Yin spirit to sense the soul-refining lake. Also, since when had the soul-refining lake become so powerful? How could the soul-transforming pool's power penetrate into the land of terror when they were separated by billions of miles and a boundless sea? At this moment, not far from Yu Yuan's Yin spirit, Bai Gu, Chuling, and Luo Ho, who were having a conversation in a small heaven and earth filled with rich Yin qi, sensed something at the same time. Eyes filled with astonishment, the three of them instantly descended to the ground. On the ground, they simultaneously looked up into the sky, and saw that the dark, gloomy sky above the land of terror was gradually being eroded by an inky color. Countless streaks of light suddenly appeared high up in the sky, with lightning and unknown crystals exploding. As the most powerful specters in the land of terror, the three of them had a strange feeling that the land of terror might be destroyed as they watched the changes in the sky. They weren't the only ones. The Thousand Tribulations Ghost King, the Mingdu Ghost King, and many other ancient nether ghosts were also watching the strange changes in the sky from different parts of the land of terror. It was as if an unknown power from another dimension had forcibly broken through the shackles of space and descended upon this place. It seemed as if it was going to break through the barrier in the sky above the land of terror. Boom! Boom! Many of the Yin mountain ranges were shaking. The nether rivers, which were closely related to the Ghost Kings, surged violently as if they were boiling. Large amounts of thick white smoke rose from them. What's going on? Jiang Xingwen trembled as she flew out of the Yin mountain range, where she was in Grey Mama's territory. Seeing that the Yin mountain range behind her was shaking violently, as if it were about to collapse, she turned to look at Mingdu with a panicked expression. "It's you. Has your body returned?" Mingdu shook his head and said with a grim face, "Something is clashing with the Tao of the land of terror in the forbidden land of the falling moons." Jiang Xingwen didn't know what to do. The forbidden land of the falling moons? That's the most mysterious place in all of Howren, Mingdu said with a grim look in his eyes. "I can't believe there's actually something that can fight it. In the land of terror, in all of Howren, it controls the cycle of life, death, and reincarnation. Who can fight it head-on? No one knew the origin of the Yin veins better than him, and he knew what it meant. However, he didn't know the forbidden land of the falling moons. Chapter 8:14. In the forbidden area of the fallen moon. Tens of thousands of heavenly devils covered heaven and earth, howling as they engaged in fierce battle against the powerful spirits inside the forbidden area. The evil divinity statue, which had been refined by sword prison, floated high in the sky like a mountain. All of the heavenly devils that had entered the forbidden area of the fallen moon forbidden area through the spatial passageway were affected by the evil divinity statue as soon as they showed their faces. They became violent, deranged, and lost their minds. Similarly, the earth devils, giant owls, and powerful demons that had been imprisoned in this forbidden area for thousands of years also had their minds twisted. The forbidden area had become the most violent and chaotic place of death in Howren. Spirits died one after another, heavenly devils exploded, and powerful demons were torn to shreds. Golden and dark red blood rained down from the sky, forming colorful rivers. The bloody and cruel battles even spread to the outside of the forbidden area. The heavenly devils and evil spirits that had flown out of the forbidden area were immediately intercepted by the primal Yang Sex alliance of cultivators, and then engaged in fierce battles. Yin God, Soul Wander, and Yang God experts died one after another. Many heavenly devils, earth devils, and powerful demons escaped and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Cultivators from the Tianyuan continent sent messages to their sects, requesting for more powerful experts to be sent to prevent the heavenly devils from wreaking havoc. However, there were more than one similar situation in Hauran and the Starry River. The forces led by the 5 great sects were overwhelmed and unable to control the situation. The famous sealing heaven soul dissolving formation was temporarily unsealed. People outside could enter, and people inside could leave. However, the cultivators from the Tianyuan continent only focused on hunting the fleeing heavenly devils and evil spirits, and didn't dare to enter the forbidden area. In the sky, ink-colored soul power surged at the bottom of the soul refining pool. The heavenly devils and evil spirits that had died in the brutal battles in the Forbidden Land would all be harvested by it. It would gather its soul power and absorb it into the pool. Once their souls dissipated, they would eventually flow into the Yin veins beneath the ground. That Yin vein was also known as the River of Dead Souls, and its source was the Land of Despair. The battles between the powerful empires in Hauran, the deaths of mortals, and the deaths of cultivators would all flow into the Yin vein beneath the ground, thereby strengthening the source of the Yin vein. This was the reason why new ghost kings appeared frequently in the Land of Terror. However, due to the existence of the soul-transforming pool in the forbidden land of the fallen moons, all of the souls of the dead would be devoured and refined by it. The souls of all living beings and the great Tao laws of the world were mercilessly torn apart by the soul-dissolving pool. As the eye of the heaven-sealing soul-refining formation and the central hub of the grand formation, this soul-refining pool is a divine item. Yen Qiling was one of the few wise men in the Forbidden Land who hadn't been poisoned by the evil idol. His eyes were bright as he sat inside an enormous, oval-shaped hole and looked up at the soul-refining pool. In the crater there was a huge silver-white meteorite. He knew that the meteor had been taken away by the Star-Luna sect and refined into a meteor eye by combining dozens of Star-Luna treasures. Now it was in Lu Ying's hands. Whoosh! The former empress of the empire was like a silver moon that had fallen into a pit. Her eyes were cold. "My sister died in the Land of Despair?" "It's just a Yin master," Yen Qiling explained. "Who did it?" the Silver Moon Queen asked. "It seems to be an ancient ghost named Qianchang, a subordinate of the Nether Capital Ghoul monarch." Yen Qiling spread his hands. "Don't stare at me like that. I managed to open 2 spatial tunnels, but they only existed for a short time, so the information I got was limited. The Nether Capital, the ruler of the Land of Despair 1,000 years ago." The Silver Moon Queen didn't seem to be afraid when she talked about this person. Instead, she seemed to be full of fighting spirit. "Next time you open a spatial tunnel, please let me know first. I'll go in and kill that Qian Chang ghost with my Yin master." "Are you out of your mind?" Yen Qiling's face grew grim. "If you're only a Yin master, you might not be able to defeat that Qian Chang ghost in the Land of Despair. If he dares to come out, you can kill him with ease. However, you won't have much of a chance of winning in that land of wondrous evil. I don't need you to care about my business. You just need to let me know," the Silver Moon Queen said murderously. "Yu Yuan is here. He'll take care of it." Yen Qiling suddenly changed the topic. The Silver Moon Queen's lips curled into a mocking sneer. She was just about to say that if it weren't for Yu Yuan's interference, she, Chen Liangquan, Zhong Li Da, and the others wouldn't have been delayed for so long and caused so much trouble for no reason. Yen Qiling didn't want to talk about this old topic. He said directly, he didn't know anything before. All of a sudden, Yen Qiling, the Silver Moon Queen, and the many powerful vile souls and heavenly demons all looked towards the soul pool. The soul pool, floating high in the air, exuded an aura that made all souls tremble. Dots of inky light sputtered, and beams of sword light suddenly flew out of the pool's walls. This time, without Yen Qiling's cooperation, space was pierced through, and a crack that was as bright as a blade of light appeared. Beams of sword light and inky soul power poured into the crack. "It's invading the land of terror!" Yen Qiling turned pale with shock. In the next moment, he felt his scalp go numb and he didn't know what to do. It's conflicting with the laws of the land of terror. Its invasion may cause unforeseen changes in the land of terror and the forbidden land of the fallen moon. The Silver Moon Queen was also shocked. It clearly suppressed the remnant sword power of that being. It could have escaped Yu Yuan's control. Why is it acting so crazily? Yen Qiling didn't answer this question. Yu Yuan wasn't chosen by the sword soul, but by it? Liu Pan asked again. Yen Qiling still didn't answer. What's going on? Neither you nor I are qualified to know. In the underground world, Yu Yuan's nether soul floated in the wide nether river, sensing the unusual changes in the soul pool that were hundreds of millions of kilometers away. He sensed that it was about to receive him. From the look of it, the soul pool was trying to take him back to the forbidden land of the fallen moon. Both his nether soul and his true form knew that the earth was shaking, and that he was communicating with the soul pool with his nether soul. Without the permission of the origin of the Yin spirit, the soul pool had forcibly broken the restrictive spell and invaded the land of terror. At this moment, the origin of the Yin spirit's will that had been dormant for a long time transmitted its message to Nye Tian. This time, the origin of the Yin spirit wanted him to cut off his connection with the soul pool and stop trying to sense the soul pool's presence. The original agreement was still in effect. The origin of the Yin spirit wouldn't ask him who he was and why he was in the land of terror. Of course, he didn't need his nether soul to lie in the nether river and let the origin of the Yin spirit search for his past. He even sensed that the origin of the Yin spirit had been forced to submit to him, as if even the master of this heaven and earth was helpless against it. It was helpless against the soul pool's powerful invasion. All right. Yu Yuan agreed without hesitation. In the next moment, he stopped focusing on sensing the soul pool's presence. Suddenly, the trembling land of despair quieted down again. No more sword lights could be seen in the depths of the dark sky, and no more black soul power could be sensed. Everything returned to normal. Whoosh! Yu Yuan's nether soul was also flung out of the nether river and appeared in front of Bai Gu, Luo Ho, and Chuling. Astonishment filled Luo Ho's eyes as she exclaimed, "Yu Yuan! How did those strange energies form in the sky?" Yu Yuan glanced at Chuling Ghoul King and frowned slightly, but didn't answer. Chuling Ghoul King, who was in the form of a child and wearing an emperor's crown, gave him a deep look and said, "I promise not to interfere in your battle with him." After saying this, Chuling Ghoul King instantly appeared beside An Ziqing and took her away with the spirit locking diagram. What the dark nether capital fears the most is that my flames will destroy the land of terror. Bai Gu's emerald eyes flashed with a strange light. It seems that the dark nether capital has the wrong target. He looked at Yu Yuan quietly. Luo Ho smiled bitterly and said, "I don't know why, but the disturbance just now made me feel that the land of terror is about to be destroyed." She, Bai Gu, and Chuling Ghoul King all knew that the world-shaking tremors had been caused by Yu Yuan. Chapter 8:15. Beams of white light that looked like thousands of slender silver dragons coiled around a sharp awl. The awl sank into the ground, suddenly grew larger, and then continued to rise. Yin Qi that was as vast as the sea surged from the depths of the earth and turned into pure energy, helping the all return to its original appearance. Before long, the bright silver all turned back into a towering silver-white mountain. Boom! Rumble! There were 17 holes scattered all over by Gu's territory, and the ground was rumbling. The 17 pits were the ruins of the Een mountain range that had collapsed and contained Een sunflower essence. At this moment, as the earth shook, the water of the wide Nether River flowed. Then, streams split from the Nether River and flowed to the bottom of the 17 holes. At the bottom of the holes, abundant Een chi accumulated and gradually rose, forming brand new mountains. The Een mountains were rebuilt. Inside the towering, silver-white Een mountain, Bai Gu sat quietly in a cave. Its entire body was bathed in holy light as it communicated with the Nether River in the Netherworld with its mind and soul. With the help of the will of the source of the Een vein, it rebuilt the mountains that had been destroyed by the underworld ghost. The Een mountains can be rebuilt? Yuan Lianyao stood at the foot of the mountain and watched the earth shake. Hearing Luo Ho's explanation, she was secretly surprised. Yu Yuan's Een spirit had merged with his true body, and he stood with Luo Ho, looking at Bai Gu in the cave. After becoming a Ghoul King, you can rebuild Een mountains in your territory with the power of the Nether River. Luo Ho smiled and said with a relaxed expression, otherwise, why would the mountains where each Ghoul King cultivates be taller than the other ghouls? It will consume the power of the Nether River, won't it? Yuan Lianyao asked. Of course it will. Luo Ho lowered his head and glanced at the ground. His gaze seemed to penetrate layers of obstacles, and he saw the wide Nether River. Bai Gu is indeed much stronger than me. After killing Frigid Abyss and Blackstaff, the Nether River that connected with Bai Gu had become much wider, and the Een chi it contained had also become denser. This also meant that White Bones could benefit more from the Netherworld's Nether River, regardless of whether it was cultivation or battle. She knew very well that most of the time, the combat strength of a Ghost King could be seen through the corresponding Nether River of the underworld. Legend had it that when the Mingdu Ghostly King was at his strongest, the Netherworld River that resonated with him was abnormally turbulent. The river channel was also several times wider than other ghostly kings. It was precisely because of this that Mingdu was able to suppress all the ghost kings of the same generation and become the undisputed ruler. Before Bai Gu appeared, the battle between the ghost kings had never ended in life or death. Every ghost king's corresponding underworld river was about the same size, so their combat power was also about the same. But now, the power between the ghost kings had changed greatly. Bai Gu's Nether River was much wider than hers, Chuling's, and Qianjie's. This meant that Bai Gu's battle prowess surpassed hers and Chuling's. Senior apprentice sister, I'll have to trouble you to send my big sister Yuan away from the land of terror, Yu Yuan suddenly said. Ah! Yuan Lianyao's beautiful eyes panicked as she abruptly turned to look at him. Yu Yuan, I'm fine here. Why are you suddenly asking me to leave? I want to deal with Chu Yao and Chao Jiazi. And I'm going to do it soon, Yu Yuan said in a low voice. Yuan Lianyao's expression suddenly changed. That urgent? 7-colored light flashed in Luo Ho's eyes as her expression suddenly changed. Are you serious? Chu Yao was Zhong Chichen's son-in-law and disciple. She had been plotted against by the current sect master of voodoo, and she believed that Zhong Chichen was behind it. Also, Chu Yao was Hancha's most beloved disciple, but after Hancha's soul dissipated, and his first and second disciples went missing, Chu Yao was immediately put in an important position by Zhong Chichen and even betrothed his daughter to him. No matter how she looked at it, there was something wrong with Chu Yao. Of course, Luo Ho didn't have a good impression of Chu Yao. She thought that Yu Yuan wanted to avenge his master, Hanch, and take the opportunity to deal with Chu Yao in the land of terror. She also had the same idea, but she felt that the timing wasn't right, so she suppressed it for now. Now that Yu Yuan had taken the initiative to say that he wanted to deal with Chu Yao, she naturally agreed. Chu Yao represents the medicine god sect, and he has a good relationship with Chao Jiazi. Attacking him will cause a lot of trouble. Yu Yuan said seriously to Yuan Lianyao, Big Sister Yuan, you should leave the land of terror first. We'll meet again when I'm out. Also, Mo Yen isn't dead, and I'm afraid of the Devil's Palace's revenge. Go to the land of desolation for me and tell Yushu to look after the Yu clan. I'll always be with you in this place. I have nothing to worry about. Yuan Lianyao's beautiful face was filled with bitterness. Mo Yen knows, and the cultivators of the Tianyuan continent also know. It'll be very difficult for me to cut ties with you after I leave. I know. Yu Yuan reached out and gently touched Yuan Lianyao's wrist, only to feel that it was slightly warm. If the two of you want to be intimate, Yu Yuan, you can try to leave your body with your Yin spirit. Even though we're both in the Yin spirit form, the feeling of our souls touching each other is a little strange. Although it's not as real as physical contact, it's still a different feeling. Deep in her heart, she regarded Yu Yuan as her junior martial brother, so she was naturally close to him. Yuan Lianyao had risked everything in the land of terror to stand side by side with Yu Yuan from beginning to end, which made her look at her in a new light. She thought that this fire lotus of the Red Devil School was worthy of her junior martial brother's attention. Stop fooling around. Yuan Lianyao curled her lips, her expression not very good. You can't switch to the Tao of Ghosts. Your true body is still in the Red Devil School. Even if you want to fly like a moth to a flame, your Yin spirit should return to your body first. Yu Yuan had already prepared an excuse. You should return to the Red Devil School as soon as possible before things get too tense. Otherwise, when I start a fight with Chu Yao and Chao Jiaza, I won't be able to explain myself. No matter what he did to the ghosts in the land of terror, it wouldn't be a serious problem. Everyone knew that he and Mo Yen had a grudge against each other. If he attacked Mo Yen, it wouldn't prove that he was in cahoots with the Outlanders and deliberately took out Mo Yen to vent his anger. But Chu Yao and Chao Jiaza didn't have a grudge against him before. If he suddenly started a fight, and Yuan Lianyao was with him, it would be a lot more troublesome. It would be very difficult for the Red Devil School to absolve her. It was very likely that they would sacrifice her for the sake of the medicine god sect and Zuantianzong. Of course, Yu Yuan didn't want to do that. Yuan Lianyao's eyes had thousands of words to say. We'll meet again. Looking deeply at her, Yu Yuan said, I also need you to go to the land of desolation and tell you two to take care of the Yu family. With that, he looked at Luo Ho and signaled with his eyes. Luo Ho understood and covered Yuan Lianyao with the flower basket in her hand without saying anything. She pursed her lips and said with a smile, He's right. You have to return your Yin soul. With this tempering, it shouldn't be too difficult for you to break through to the Soul Wander realm. While many things haven't happened yet, you can still rely on the power of the Red Devil School and be put in an important position by the Red Devil School. Brilliant multicolored light enveloped her and Yuan Lianyao together. She fell into the flower basket and used it as a tool to suddenly fly into the distance. As long as the Ghost King of the Land of Terror was in Howren and wasn't bound by special soul tools or spell formations, he could use his divine ability to shrink the land and return to the Nether River that resonated with him in an instant. Luo Ho was a Ghost King. She could send Yuan Lianyao out and return in a breath's time. Even if she encountered terrible danger outside the Land of Terror, with such a powerful Ghost King, she could easily escape if she wanted to. In the towering silver-white Yin Mountain, Bai Gu's green eyes shone with a strange light. Do you really care about the Yu family? Without warning, he looked down at Yu Yuan and asked, What's wrong? When he spoke of the Yu family, his tone was indescribably strange, and the light in his eyes was unpredictable. I come from the Yu family of Dark Moon City. Some of them have treated me sincerely since I was young. Of course I don't want the Yu family to be destroyed because of me, Yu Yuan said. The Yu family. Bai Gu muttered in a low voice and didn't ask any more questions. He seemed to be focused on building the Een Mountain inside his realm. In a corner outside the Land of Terror, a ball of brilliant multicolored light suddenly appeared and turned into an exquisite flower basket. Inside the flower basket, Luo Ho and Yuan Lianyao looked around through the transparent light. Lord Feng Yao. Yuan Lianyao's pretty face was filled with excitement. At a glance, she saw a tall, one-armed man inside a huge burning fireball. Have a safe trip. Luo Ho smiled softly, pushed Yuan Lianyao's Een spirit out, and nodded at Feng Yao from afar. She looked around again and seemed to see that something was wrong. Her expression changed slightly, and then she suddenly disappeared. Feng Yao walked out of the burning fireball and shouted in a loud voice, "She's Ghost King Luo Ho? Where's Bai Gu?" "She's Luo Ho. Bai Gu has other things to do." "My lord, Yuan Lianyao hurriedly explained the situation. Just as she spoke, she found that in addition to Feng Yao, many powerful experts with astonishing auras appeared from the shadows. Every one of them was a Soul Wander Realm or Sun God Realm expert. There were even Freedom Realm cultivators hiding in the shadows. Feng Yao signaled with his eyes for her to be silent. She quickly closed her mouth. Seeing so many important figures from the Tranquil Continent, Devil's Palace, Goblin Temple, Red Devil School, and Blood God, she knew that the upheaval in the Land of Terror had alarmed many forces. Chapter 8:16. 17 Een mountains of different heights rose from the ground due to White Bone Ghost King's secret arts. Every Een mountain had been refined by Bai Gu before, so they had Bai Gu's spiritual imprint. After the Een sunflower essence was harvested, the imprint returned to the ground after the mountain collapsed. Once again, the imprint gathered a vast amount of Een energy. After being supported by White Bone and the Nether River, it reappeared in the Land of Terror. The 17 Een mountains spread out and surrounded the mountain White Bone was guarding, forming a strange formation. As the last Een mountain was piled up and the formation appeared, Yu Yuan suddenly had a strange feeling. He could sense even the slightest movement of souls within White Bone's territory. No ghosts or spirits would be able to pry into the secrets of this place once they were outside its jurisdiction. The 17 Een mountains were like lighthouses that illuminated everything and souls within White Bone's territory. Looking deeply at White Bone Ghost King, Yu Yuan's expression was indifferent, but his mind was slightly shaken. Who in the world of Howren had the former Serene Tomb Ghost King become after reincarnating? Also, why had he been imprisoned in the forbidden land of the falling moon and refined into a strange skeleton? How was this White Bone able to break through the seal of the forbidden land, return to the Land of Terror, continue cultivating the Ghost Way, and become the present White Bone Ghost King? In Yu Yuan's eyes, White Bone was shrouded in mysterious clouds and could not be seen clearly. He had a feeling that Serene Tomb, which was from the same era as Nether Capital, might have as many secrets as Nether Capital. He only needed to investigate a little, and he would be clear about what had happened in Mingdu. However, White Bone's past experiences were unknown. The white flames it released could purify corrupted souls and suppress ghosts, but it had gained the absolute trust of the source of the Een vein. White Bone, thinking about this name, Yu Yuan rubbed his chin and sank into deep thought. Congratulations, my lord. At the nearest newly formed Een mountain, a raccoon-shaped ghost was worshipping the White Bones from dozens of miles away. It was worshipping the White Bones at the top of the Een mountain. When White Bones made its move, it had disappeared without a trace. Only now did it reappear. After the White Bones in the cave at the mountainside finished constructing the Een mountains, it glanced at the raccoon-shaped ghost from afar. With a slight movement of its soul consciousness, it instantly transmitted many orders. The ghost nodded repeatedly. After cupping its fists and bowing, it quickly shrank back into Een Mountain. You can choose any one of these 17 Een mountains. After your Een spirit leaves your body, you can cleanse yourself again. The white bone floated down like a piece of white catkin. It stopped in front of Yu Yuan and said, "Your master has just been formed. It will be good for you if you cultivate it a little." Yu Yuan frowned. "I'm a little worried." "Worried that Mingdu's body will return?" Bai Gu asked. Nodding, Yu Yuan said, "You and I both know that his body is on its way back. It wouldn't be long before the body that came from outer space would fall here. In Mingdu, once the soul and body reunited, the lost power would be restored. Correspondingly, the dried-up Netherworld river would also be injected into the river water instantly." Once he thought that Mingdu's body would arrive soon, Yu Yuan instantly felt pressured. Bai Gu also fell silent because of this. He knew that the rules of the Great Tao in the Land of Terror would exist forever. It wouldn't change fundamentally because of the likes and dislikes of the source of the Yin vein. Yu Yuan was also very clear that no matter how fearful the source of the Yin vein was of Dark Nether Capital, it was because Dark Nether Capital was born here. If his soul really left the soul-crossing river and merged with his body, the truth of the Ghost Tao he comprehended would push him back to the Ghost King realm. With the death of Frigid Abyss and Black Staff, the source of the Yin vein was now filled with pure and vast Yin Qi. At this time, once Mingdu recovered to his peak, his dried-up Netherworld river might be even wider and more turbulent than when it was at its peak. At that time, Mingdu would turn around and look for them to kill them. Mingdu, who controlled the soul-crossing river, could travel through space in the Land of Terror. His target couldn't even escape and could only fight with all his strength. Whoosh! Ghost King Luoho returned. As soon as he appeared, he said, "Cultivators from various sects of the Tranquil Continent are gathered outside. There are many Freedom Realm cultivators among them. Is Sister Yuan all right?" Yu Yuan asked anxiously. Fang Yao of the Red Devil School personally came to receive her. "Her life should be fine." As Ghost King Luoho spoke, he acutely sensed that the heaven and earth under Bai Gu's jurisdiction seemed to be covered by Bai Gu's secret technique. She released her soul awareness and tried to verify it, but found that she couldn't use her soul to search for anything in her jurisdiction other than the Netherworld River that corresponded to her. "You rebuilt those 17 Yin mountains?" Luoho came to a realization. As a Ghost King, Bai Gu was currently the strongest Ghost King in the Land of Terror. Including the one in front of him, he had refined a total of 18 Yin mountains to form a great formation. It was actually able to cover the entire territory, making it so that other Ghost Kings of the same level couldn't cast spells from afar and observe what was happening within his territory. "I just finished it." Bai Gu nodded. "Even the Nether Capital?" Luoho asked curiously. Bai Gu nodded again. "Even he can't see what's happening in my territory before he recovers his peak strength and his soul and body fuses." "Good move." Luoho clicked her tongue in praise and then relaxed. "Junior Marshal Brother, are you going to attack Chu Yao next?" When Yuan Lianyao and the other ghosts were here, she hadn't opened her heart to speak freely. Now that she learned that Bai Gu had covered the entire territory and that the Ghost Kings outside couldn't see what was happening, she no longer had any scruples and directly called Yu Yuan Junior Marshal Brother. However, Bai Gu's emerald eyes didn't show any surprise. It seemed that he had learned from her that Yu Yuan had obtained the legacy of the former sect master of the Medicine God sect and become the successor of the Medicine God. He was her junior martial brother. "No need to be curious. I've already explained to Bai Gu that my real name is Luoyu. I was once the sect master of voodoo." Ghost King Luoho smiled. "Bai Gu promised me that after this matter is over, he will tell me all the details and precautions of reincarnation. After I reincarnate as a human, he will also secretly escort me. When she was reborn as a human, her memories wouldn't be lost. She could quickly step onto the path of cultivation. However, in the early stages of cultivation, she would be very weak and would need large amounts of spirit materials and pills. She might also encounter difficult situations. If Bai Gu looked after her, it would be much easier for her. Her path of cultivation as a human would be much smoother. My main goal is to attack Chao Jiazi. Chu Yao is just in passing. Yu Yuan looked into the distance. To be honest, I don't have any ill feelings towards that person from Xuantianzong. From the moment he appeared, he didn't show any obvious malice towards me. However, I feel that his threat is second only to the Nether Capital Ghost King. I believe in my feelings. Amen, he will help the Nether Capital at a critical moment, Bai Gu said coldly. Luo Ho didn't know this. Hearing this, he was surprised. Why would Xuantianzong help the Nether Capital? When the Nether Capital escaped from the Land of Terror and roamed the Outer Realms, it was the three high sects who urged the moon-severing realm cultivators to act and turn the Nether Capital into this. I can't tell you the exact reason. I just know that when we attack the Nether Capital with all our strength, he will interfere, Yu Yuan said expressionlessly. He hasn't acted yet because it hasn't reached that step yet. Because everything that has happened now, including the deaths of Frost Abyss and Black Staff, Bai Gu said. It was an accident that Thousand Tribulation didn't die. I suspect that the Nether Capital wants to see Thousand Tribulation killed by me like Frost Abyss and Black Staff. Since that Chao Jiazi will act sooner or later, why don't we act first? Yu Yuan said coldly. Luo Ho looked deeply at him. Little junior brother, once you act this time, there is no turning back. Chao Jiazi and the many Yin gods in the palace are all from the Tianyuan continent. If you act against Chao Jiazi and Chu Yao, it can be seen as a declaration of war against the forces that still control Hauran. Yu Yuan's decision shook her soul. She finally understood why her little junior brother was in a hurry to send Yuan Lianyao away. Chao Jiazi represented Xuantianzong, and the many Yin gods in the palace represented the sects of the Tianyuan continent. Yu Yuan wanted to take the initiative to attack and take care of some future problems before the Nether Capital's body returned. It was a clear break with the current forces. From then on, he would step onto a path of no return and become a so-called traitor. Even Luo Ho didn't have the courage to fight against the five supreme forces and the current forces of Hauran. That was why she was always hesitant, worried about her gains and losses, unable to make a choice. Yet, Yu Yuan had actually made the decision without any hesitation. Over there. My fiendish demon cauldron has been following them from afar. That palace formed by a heavenly palace seal is now in the territory of the Wanchuan ghost. Yu Yuan pointed in a direction. No matter what sect the Yin gods in that palace are from, if they stand in our way of killing Chao Jiazi, there is no need to show mercy. They landed in a grand palace on a Yin mountain. It was solemn and shone with divine light. Xuantianzong's Chao Jiazi's heart palpitated. Then, he said with a worried expression, Yu Yuan, oh Yu Yuan, why are you forcing me? I had too many opportunities to act, but I chose to watch from the sidelines. But why are you suddenly so determined to kill me? Chu Yao laughed involuntarily. Yu Yuan wants to kill you? What does he have to kill you? He, along with Bai Gu and Luo Ho, are already here. Chao Jiazi's expression was serious. After settling Yuan Lianyao down and negotiating with Ghost King Chuling, Bai Gu has finished what he needs to do and is finally pointing his spear at me. At this point, he thought to himself, how does Yu Yuan know that I'm helping the Nether Capital? Bai Gu and Ghost King Luo Ho? The Yin gods in the palace weren't afraid of Yu Yuan. They were only frightened when they heard that Bai Gu and Luo Ho were with Yu Yuan. You can't hide anymore. Make your own choice. Do you want to stay here with me or do you want to leave? Chao Jiazi sighed helplessly. Why do you have to be so aggressive? Chapter 8:17. All the experts who had gathered in the dazzling palace were silent. They were not afraid of Yu Yuan. In fact, they looked down on Yu Yuan. But Bai Gu and Luo Ho were both ghoul kings. Furthermore, they had witnessed the process of the Bone Ghost King killing the Frigid Depths and the Black Cane, and knew that the new Bone Ghost King was at his peak. Who would dare to fight Bai Gu with their Yin spirits? What about you? Chao Jiazi turned around and looked calmly at Chu Yao of the Medicine God sect. I know that you want to collect Yin sunflower essence. You don't dare to ask for the Yin sunflower essence in me. What you want is the other part that Yu Yuan refined. Only with enough Yin sunflower essence can you refine a pill for your master. With the current situation, you still want to continue waiting? Wait for Yu Yuan to die, and then you'll take the Yin sunflower essence? He was very clear about Chu Yao's scheme. The way he looked at Chu Yao also became somewhat thought-provoking. No one knew that he could communicate with the Nether Capital Ghoul King directly. No one knew that he knew many secrets through the Nether Capital Ghoul King. For example, the current Luo Ho Ghoul King was the former sect master of voodoo, Luo Yu. He also knew that Chu Yao played a big part in Luo Yu becoming the current Luo Ho Ghoul King. It was not Zhong Chichen who communicated with Luo Yu's junior brother, but Chu Yao. Even Luo Yu did not know about this. Are you confident? Chu Yao said calmly. You have never failed. No matter where you are, as long as you participate in something, you will win in the end. You didn't leave because you have something else to rely on? The eyes of many people who were planning to leave lit up. Yes, when had Chao Jiazi of Xuantianzong lost to anyone? After countless trials and battles between sects, Chao Jiazi's name was mentioned by the current Xuantianzong sect master and gradually spread throughout Hauran. When had he ever been defeated? In the past, there had been similar situations. Didn't he make it all the way? Go or stay, it's up to you. Chao Jiazi smiled and stopped looking into the distance. He walked out of the palace and sat on the Yin mountain. I'll wait. Whoosh! In the cold and desolate wilderness, the evil demon cauldron was whistling. It had shrunk 10 times and was now as small as a cluster of black light. Yui was sitting on the mouth of the cauldron. A suction force that targeted spirits appeared, and a ghost with 2 pairs of black and purple wings that had been hiding underground was forcibly pulled out. It instantly flew towards Yui. Yui, whose hemp garments had transformed into a plain white dress, stroked the creases on the corners of her dress. Her bright gem-like eyes were filled with curiosity. She ignored the ghost that was being sucked into the evil demon cauldron. Because Master has condensed his Yin soul, my lost memories are awakening faster. It's strange. I clearly haven't gathered enough evil demons, but when the ghost spirit fell into the cauldron, she knew that another 4th-rank evil demon was about to be born. She didn't care. She just felt strange. Strange that her power had inexplicably begun to rise without warning and without reason. She carefully combed through her memories and confirmed that the change had occurred when Yu Yuan's Yin soul had left his body and appeared in the Land of Terror for the first time. From that moment on, many of her dusty memories seemed to have been lifted, and they were instantly revealed. When the dark sky of the Land of Terror was eroded by a mysterious power, the hemp garments she wore turned into the long dress she longed for. She was able to create her own body and soul at will. She was able to sculpt her facial features and appearance. She originally thought that she would have to gather at least 10,000 evil demons before she could forge her soul into a satisfactory form and reconstruct the face she had envisioned in her heart. There was a kind of power that accelerated her transformation and promoted her growth. In fact, the evil demon cauldron's grade had also broken through a few grades. Her intelligence, her strength, and her compatibility with the cauldron had all improved. Could it be a gift from the source of the Yin vein? Yui was extremely puzzled. Just as she couldn't figure it out, she suddenly sensed Yu Yuan's arrival. She hurriedly cried out in surprise, "Master, I'm here." Yu Yuan flew through the air. There was nothing special about it. It was just that his upper, middle, and lower dantian were connected. His soul power flowed from top to bottom, and his spirit power flowed from bottom to top. They followed a meridian to the profound acupoint in his middle dantian and connected with his blood. Naturally, he could fly through the air and determine the direction with his soul thought. He could also use his spirit power and blood to provide strength. Flying through the air at the Een spirit realm was just that simple. There was no difficulty at all. Even more gratifying was that when he flew through the air, the 7 acupoints in his chest that had been opened by the Een sunflower essence gave him a little extra strength, and he was as light as a feather. He was actually only slightly slower than the 2 Ghost Kings, Bai Gu and Luoho. At different levels, the scenery one can see and the situation one can feel are indeed different. Yu Yuan secretly communicated with the cauldron's soul and experienced the joy of flying through the air. He said, being able to fly through the air, this trip was worth it. In his previous life, he could only fly through different skies on an artifact. But now, he didn't rely on the evil demon cauldron or other items. He had never experienced flying through the air with his own strength. When you return to Howren, your flying speed will slow down. Luoho pursed her lips and smiled. She turned around and said, the Een sunflower essence has helped you a lot. I still don't understand what the Een sunflower essence is. Yu Yuan was surprised. You can treat the Een sunflower essence like the Frost Soul Frost Crystal. The Frost Soul Frost Crystal only exists at the bottom of the 9 Hells Frost Abyss. It is the crystallization of extremely cold power and contains endless wonders. The Een sunflower essence isn't formed by the Nether River, but by the source of the Een vein, Luoho explained. Yu Yuan pondered for a while and roughly understood what was going on. Comes from the source of the Een vein. No wonder it's so miraculous. No wonder I can refine it in my body and not be affected by the harsh cold wind of this world. Thump, thump, thump. Inside the blood aura world, the life altar that looked like a blood jade and red crystal suddenly shook violently. Yu Yuan, who was still experiencing the joy of flying, suddenly felt pain in his chest and instantly fell from the sky. Bang! A human-shaped hole appeared on the gray ground. The sides of the hole were covered in cracks. Yu Yuan crawled out of the hole with a gloomy face. He looked at the ball of bloody light at the profound gate acupuncture point with a dark expression and said in a low voice, Chao Jiaza has something that contains a terrifying amount of blood aura. Just like the turbulent fluctuations he had felt before entering the White Bones territory, a violent blood aura vibration caused the life altar to lose control and his blood aura to become chaotic. Chao Jiaza is very difficult to deal with. Luoho's expression was serious. I'm also very difficult to deal with, Yu Yuan said with a smile. The fiendish demon cauldron suddenly flew over from afar due to his summons. Since he had experienced flying before, he didn't waste any more energy and jumped into the cauldron. Go find that heavenly palace seal. With a thought, he felt that the cauldron's soul had changed. Yui shrank back into the small world inside the cauldron, but he could clearly see that Yui now had exquisite facial features and a long white dress. Her petite figure was slim, and her eyes were unusually bright. She was full of vigor and vitality, as if she had a new life. Almost at the same time, Bai Gu and Luoho looked at the fiendish demon cauldron in surprise. Their senses were more direct. Not long after they parted, the 2 Ghoul Kings sensed that Yui's soul had undergone a transformation at the level of her soul. It was as if Yu Yuan's earthly soul had become a Een soul. Thank you, Master. Yui thanked him gently from inside the cauldron. I don't know what happened, but it seems that not long ago, Master formed a Een soul and I truly woke up. Although I didn't recover my memories, I feel different. I'm sure that my change is because of you, Master. The cauldron was already flying towards Chao Jiaza's position. Yui kept talking, telling Yu Yuan a lot about the wonders of the Land of Terror and the rules that the source of the Een veins had to be preserved. It couldn't break the rules. The fiendish demon cauldron wasn't entering the land of terror for the first time, and neither was Yue. She knew that she had been here before, but she couldn't remember what had happened. Now, with the recovery of her memories, she hadn't remembered all the other parts, but she remembered all the dusty memories of the land of terror. That memory had happened before the dark North capital was born. Her previous master had wanted to accumulate enough fiendish demons for the cauldron. From what she said, her previous master had come into contact with the source of the Yin veins many years ago. Their contact had been unpleasant, and her previous master had been expelled by the source of the Yin veins. I hope it won't take its anger out on you. Chapter 8:18. At the edge of the land of terror, a scroll floated in the air. Just as the scroll was about to leave the land of terror, a bright heavenly river appeared out of nowhere. Then, the tall Netherdew Ghost King walked out of it. Without any subordinates following him, Netherdew frowned and looked at the scroll. The scroll slowly stopped and a sigh sounded. Whoosh! Chuling stepped out of the spirit-locking diagram with a helpless expression and bowed. "Greetings, milord." Netherdew looked at him coldly. "Why are you leaving?" "Milord, I don't want to die here like Black Staff and Frigid Abyss." Chuling looked up and met his gaze fearlessly. "I know what you want. You want all the Ghost Kings to fight White Bone to the death, but I don't want that. I'm no longer White Bone's match, not to mention that he has Luoho by his side. You should know that even if you die, I can revive you," Netherdew said with a dark expression. "You're different from Black Staff and Frigid Abyss. I value you, and you've been loyal to me since the beginning. If they die, then so be it, but I won't do that to you. If you're really dead, I can bring you back to life when I become a specter god." Chuling hesitated for a moment, then smiled bitterly. "I don't want to die again. Also, milord, you have to become a ghost god to revive a ghost king. But..." He shook his head. "Milord, you might not be able to obtain the final victory. I don't want to take the risk." What had convinced him to leave was the commotion Yu Yuan had caused when she had communicated with the soul-transforming lake in the bone domain. The sword beam's attack and the black soul energy's invasion of the land of terror made Chuling, a ghost king, feel uneasy. At that time, he no longer felt that Netherdew would definitely win. Therefore, he decided not to participate in the battle between Netherdew and White Bone. He also decided not to play any tricks and wait for an opportunity to strike. "Chuling, will I lose?" Mingdu was like a god, looking down at him from high above. "You have followed me in the land of terror. When have you ever seen me lose? You've lost before, even though it was in outer space." Chuling didn't want to waste time with him. He bowed seriously. "Milord, please don't stop me. You should know that with Milord's current strength, he can't stop me. Remember, if you leave now, you won't be able to come back when I become a ghostly immortal," Mingdu said. "I know." Chuling sighed again, but didn't say anything else. Her soul wrapped around the spirit-locking diagram and passed by the soul-crossing river right under Mingdu's nose. Just like that, they left the land of despair. A storm was brewing. After the deaths of Black Scepter and Frigid Abyss, as well as the deaths of many titled phantoms, all of the specters in the land of terror grew restless. Within the territories of the dead titled specters, the ghosts who thought they were strong enough took advantage of the situation to rise up and compete for the position of new leader. Many of the soul spirits and ghostly beings in the area started fighting each other, causing even more ghostly beings to die. More and more specters, like Chuling, who sensed the unfavorable situation, left quietly. The weak ghosts knew that once they left the land of terror, they would easily become prey. They either retreated into Een Mountain and did not come out, or hid deep underground. Gradually, the number of heavenly ghosts and dark ghosts in the land of terror dwindled. On this day, Chao Jiaza, who was sitting on top of a small Een Mountain, held a Heaven Palace seal in his hand. His slightly narrowed eyes suddenly opened. Yu Yuan, are you here to kill me? The fiend demon cauldron floated over and floated 100 meters away from the small mountain. Yu Yuan stood on top of it and said, "We can talk about it. Do you know that I've had many opportunities to kill you since I ran into you in the Land of Terror?" Chao Jiazi said with a smile. After thinking for a moment, Yu Yuan said, "That seems to be the case." "I haven't done anything yet," Chao Jiazi said. "That's why I'm asking you to leave the Land of Terror and promise not to set foot here for a year." Yu Yuan clasped his hands and bowed. "Just 1 year. After that, you can come and go as you please. I won't ask you anything. You know?" Chao Jiazi's expression changed. Yu Yuan nodded and said, "I know. The person you're here to help isn't the dead cold abyss ghost king. You're here on orders to help the Dark Nether Capital become a specter god. I'm a great threat to the Dark Nether Capital, so it's only a matter of time before you attack me." "Actually, I haven't made a decision yet." Chao Jiazi frowned. "I don't want any accidents." Yu Yuan's gaze swept past Chao Jiazi and landed on the numerous Yin gods from the Tianyuan continent behind him. "So, I'll have to trouble you to leave." "Yu Yuan, who do you think you are to speak to him in such a tone? You're just a young master of a tiny dark moon city. You don't belong to any sect or sect. Do you really think you can do whatever you want just because you're lucky? You're the one who should leave, aren't you, Yu Yuan? I bet you don't dare to leave the Land of Terror. If you do, you'll be surrounded by Howren heaven and earth. You're afraid, aren't you? It's useless to be afraid. I don't believe you can hide in the Land of Terror forever." Many cultivators from so-called righteous sects who had decided to stay criticized him. Yang spirits were Freedom Realm Grand cultivators. If they entered the Land of Terror with their Yin spirits, they would be restrained by the Great Tao. Therefore, most human cultivators could only send their Yin spirits here when they were at the Yin spirit or soul wander realm. Didn't Yu Yuan come to the Land of Terror at such a special time to avoid trouble? However, he just happened to be in the middle of a battle between the Ghoul Kings and Bai Gu and Luoho. Now, he dared to ask Chao Jiazi to leave. "Why? Luoho, what are you doing?" Before Yu Yuan could say anything, a sharp cry suddenly rang out. Everyone couldn't help but look behind Chao Jiazi. They saw Ghost King Luoho wrap up Chu Yao from the Medicine God sect with a flower basket in his hand. "Don't waste your energy. With your pathetic cultivation base, there's no way your Yin soul will be able to escape from my soul tool in this terrifying place." Luoho chuckled as she looked at Chu Yao, who was struggling to break free from my soul tool. "Why are you imprisoning me?" Chu Yao asked in confusion. Luoho smiled and didn't answer. "Because she's Luoyu," Chao Jiazi said. "Voodoo, the former sect master Luoyu." Upon hearing this, many cultivators present, including Chu Yao, Yu Yuan, and Luoho, paled. They hadn't expected Chao Jiazi from Xuantianzong to say the truth. Luoyu? You're Luoyu? Impossible." Chu Yao was shocked. "Nothing is impossible. Too much poison has accumulated in her body. Due to some reasons, she lost control and exploded. Although her soul seems to have dissipated, she actually left a backup plan and escaped from her Yin spirit." Chao Jiazi turned around and smiled. "I advised you to leave earlier, but you insisted on being greedy." Chu Yao's Yin spirit crashed into the flower basket, causing the flower basket to emit a strange light. "Why didn't you tell me earlier?" "Sorry, I just calculated it." Chao Jiazi looked innocent. "But you won't die. Why are you panicking?" On the other side, Yu Yuan's mind was also in turmoil. Chao Jiazi had seen through Luoyu's identity. How did he do it? The one who controlled the cycle of life and death was the source of the underground Yin spirit. If he could see through Hancha's identity, Luoyu's identity couldn't escape. Who could find out about Luoyu's identity from the source of the Yin spirit? Dark Nether Capital. When he thought of Mingdu, He frowned and a thought appeared in his mind. In the next second, the consciousness of the source of the Een spirit sent him a message. It told him that his identity as Hanch and Luo Yu were discovered by Mingdu because of the secret relationship between the source of the Een spirit and Mingdu. However, in his first life, Mingdu knew nothing about it. When the source of the Een meridians was covered, Mingdu would not be able to smell any clues. It would also be impossible for them to know the deduction of the source of the Een meridians and that he had another life. "You're really Luo Yu?" Chu Yao exclaimed. "Let me see if you were involved in that matter back then." Luo Yu's finger pierced through the multicolored light and pressed against Chu Yao's forehead. Chu Yao looked as if he was struck by lightning. His Een spirit didn't move. Yu Yuan's eyes lit up. He was also very interested. He said loudly, "Look carefully." Luo Yu was using the soul-searching secret technique to find the deepest secret in Chu Yao's soul. He also wanted to know if Chu Yao had interfered when his elixir was wrong. If he had interfered, how did he do it? Chapter 8:19. Luo Yu pressed a finger between Chu Yao's eyebrows. Strands of multicolored light flowed along her fingertips and entered Chu Yao's soul body like lightning. A scene that surprised everyone happened. Chu Yao's Een spirit suddenly melted like a wax figure being burned by fire. A strange pill the size of a thumb covered in tree patterns appeared in the mind of Chu Yao's Een spirit and dissolved along with his Een spirit. Not long after, Chu Yao turned into a pool of wax in the flower basket. Wood receiving soul pill. Inside the fiend demon cauldron, Yu Yuan's expression darkened when he saw the strange thumb-sized pill appear. He knew why Chao Jiazi had said that. "You can't die, so why are you panicking?" When Chao Jiazi said this, Yu Yuan thought that even if Chu Yao's Een spirit died like Li Yuchan, because his true body was in the outside world, it was not true death. He didn't expect Chao Jiazi to say that the Chu Yao in front of him was just a wisp of his soul that had been placed in the wood-receiving soul pill. He had used the method of replacing a flower with a tree to hide his existence. Chu Yao had only damaged a rare pill. His Een spirit didn't feel anything. The wood-receiving soul pill was extremely high-grade and could only be refined by a divine-rank alchemist. Zhong Qichen was a divine-rank alchemist, and Chu Yao was his son-in-law. A pill. Luo was brow furrowed as she stared at the pool of wax in the flower basket. She felt like she had been fooled. The people of the medicine god sect are all more afraid of death than the other. It's not like you don't know. Chao Jiazi laughed softly. When I sensed Yu Yuan's arrival and told Chu Yao, "You and Lord Whitebone," he had an idea and acted. When these words were said, the cultivators of the Tianyuan continent who thought Chu Yao was righteous and wanted to fight side by side with Chao Jiazi cursed in their hearts. They would never have thought that Chu Yao would be able to secretly swap his Een spirit and secretly leaving behind a shadow of a wood-connecting soul pill. Chao Jiazi clearly saw through the trick, but not only did he not stop them, he didn't even warn them. What was the meaning of this? Chu Yao's life is valuable. You don't want to offend Chu Yao, so you want us to fight White Bones and Luo Yu with you? Those people were full of resentment, but they didn't dare to say anything. He found out that you're Luo Yu through this pill. He also knows that you've made a move on him. Chao Jiazi held the pocket-sized Heavenly Palace stamp and said with narrowed eyes, "His life-saving means are top-notch. I don't know where he went after he left. It's meaningless. He knows who I am. What can he do to me?" Luo Yu looked at Chao Jiazi and the many cultivators of the Tianyuan continent with a mocking gaze. "Now that I've become a ghost king, I don't have to worry about exposing my identity. As long as Chu Yao, his master, and my junior martial brother haven't reached the nascent divinity stage, they won't be able to do anything to me. As long as I'm in the land of terror, they'll know who I am. If they dare to come in, I'll be more than happy. The ghost kings of the land of terror were the strongest in this world. After leaving this world, one's combat strength would be at the first level, which was roughly equivalent to the carefree realm. As a ghost king, Luo Yu could instantly return to her corresponding nether realm's river Styx if she sensed something amiss in the outside world. Zhong Qichen, the current leader of the voodoo sect, hadn't even reached the nascent divinity stage. She could easily escape if she went out. If those two dared to go deep into the land of terror, they would be killed by her. Since that was the case, what did she have to fear if her identity was exposed? Whoosh! White bones turned into a bolt of lightning and shot toward Chao Jiazi. At the same time, clusters of white flames floated toward the cultivators of the Tianyuan continent. White bones was impatient. It wanted to get rid of the danger in front of it once and for all. White bones. The cultivators of the netherworld knew how terrifying the white flames released by white bones were. When they saw the flames coming, they ran for their lives. What they truly feared was white bones. Luo Yu, who was carrying a basket of flowers, didn't expect white bones to attack without warning. She subconsciously glanced at Yu Yuan in the fiendish demon cauldron. Yu Yuan said, "If he doesn't want to leave, then there's nothing we can do." Before white bones attacked, it had informed him and obtained his consent. Martial Nephew Chao. The old man from the Xuantianzong also panicked when he saw clusters of white flames floating in all directions. The instigator, White Bones, had personally attacked Chao Jiazi. That was a ghost king. Moreover, after killing Black Staff and Frigid Abyss, this ghost king had become the strongest in the land of terror. Even the Freedom Realm cultivators outside had no chance of winning. Let alone Chao Jiazi. No matter how confident he was in Chao Jiazi, he panicked at this moment. He shouted at the void, "Dark North Capital, where are you? Your subordinates and White Robe, why aren't you coming out to save him?" Martial Nephew Chao is the future of the Xuantianzong. If anything happens to him, don't even think about advancing to the Ghost God realm. He felt that in this situation, Chao Jiazi could only escape from the hands of White Bones if Mingdu and his 9 underlings appeared quickly. Chao Jiazi. Yu Yuan narrowed his eyes and stood in the fiendish demon cauldron, observing closely. He also wanted to know why this fearless future sect master of the Xuantianzong had the confidence to help Dark North Capital break through to the Ghost God realm in the land of terror. A peak soul wander realm cultivation wasn't enough, and the heavenly palace seal that could transform into a palace wasn't enough either. Chao Jiazi had to rely on something else. "Hey, why do you have to force me?" Chao Jiazi shook his head, an extremely helpless expression on his face. "I didn't want to use my trump card because I was afraid it would cause too much of a commotion and scare others. White Bones, oh White Bones, I know you're a ghost king, second only to Dark North Capital when he was at his strongest. But you can't really think that you, White Bones, are invincible in the land of terror, right? There are still some things in the great thousand realms and the vast universe that can suppress you, White Bones. For example this." A translucent blue gem suddenly appeared above Chao Jiazi's head. The teardrop-shaped sapphire gave off a dazzling light, dazzling and mysterious to the extreme. Its magnificence and beauty couldn't be described with words. The teardrop-shaped sapphire suddenly split into 3 parts. The azure part turned into a dark blue sky curtain. A strange power that could devour the souls of all living beings appeared from within. It actually had an aura similar to the soul refining pool. When the dark blue sky curtain appeared, the White Bones Ghost King, Luo Yu, and all the soul spirits and Een gods felt a sense of sinking into it. The White Bones Ghost King, who was charging towards Chao Jiazi, didn't have time to stop in time and ran headfirst into it. In the next moment, the White Bones Ghost King disappeared into the dark blue sky curtain like a drop of water falling into a blue lake. It didn't cause any ripples. Chao Jiazi sneered and looked at Luo Yu. "And you? The dark blue sky curtain flew up and charged towards Luo Yu. Luo Yu paled. Pooh! Inside the fiend demon cauldron, Yu Yuan spat out a mouthful of blood uncontrollably. The life altar in his blood aura world was spinning so fast that he couldn't bear it. His eyes were deep red as he stared at the teardrop-shaped object that had split into 3 parts. The Blue Devil's Tear. It was the blood spirit altar of the Blue Devil race that he had seen at the bottom of the starry ash sea. The blood spirit altar was originally in the shape of a teardrop. After it split, it turned into the spirit altar, the blood altar, and the turbid devil fetus. The Blue Devil's Tear that had escaped from Howren and sent Hei Sun, White Robe, and several evil spirits to the universe had appeared in Chao Jiaza's hands. From the looks of it, Chao Jiaza had refined it and turned it into his weapon. What was going on? P.S. I was too engrossed in watching the game and reading someone else's book in the morning to write. Cough cough sorry. Chapter 820. The dark blue canopy formed by the spiritual altar seemed to have a mind of its own as it headed straight for Luo Yu. The dim sky was covered by the dark blue canopy. A pressure that enveloped the entire area caused everyone's spirits to tremble. The guests from the Tianyuan continent felt their souls about to fall just by looking at the dark blue canopy. Their spirits couldn't stop themselves from wanting to enter. This was the power of the spiritual altar. Let's go! Luo Yu, who had turned into a ray of rainbow light and was heading towards her territory, shouted loudly. Her soul shook. The mental connection that belonged to her with the nether river of the netherworld was inexplicably severed when the spiritual altar appeared. At that moment, she immediately knew that the Blue Devil Tear that Chao Jiaza had released could really restrict her. Knowing that she couldn't win, Luo Yu hurriedly urged Yu Yuan to leave. She hoped that one of them could escape. However, when she turned her head and saw Yu Yuan vomiting blood with a face full of shock, she knew that this junior brother of hers wouldn't be able to escape this calamity. The spiritual altar gradually approached. Luo Yu's soul consciousness suddenly became erratic. Every strand of thought became extremely difficult to gather. Even the thought of running away was intermittent. The flower basket she was holding floated away from her hand like a kite with a broken string. She stopped in the air, at a loss of what to do. Then, she saw the dark blue canopy of the sky unhurriedly swallow her after the white bone. The group of cultivators from the Tianyuan continent, who had been panicking just a moment ago, now looked excitedly at the dark blue canopy of the sky with bright eyes. On the other side, due to the life altar's crazy rotation, Yu Yuan couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood. He stared at the familiar blood altar and the turbid demon fetus that he and the primal chaos Kuan had once been trapped under the blood altar. His mind was greatly shaken. He couldn't believe his eyes. The blood altar was quietly enveloped by the turbid devil fetus. It didn't fear the cold wind as it sat in midair. Originally, the blood altar should have been restrained by the frigid astral winds in the land of despair. However, under the protection of the turbid devil embryo, the blood altar wasn't affected at all. The turbid demon fetus was filled with countless energy streams: star energy, bone powder, devil energy, soul energy, and poisonous substances. It was the combination of the most chaotic and strange energies in the world. It wrapped around the blood altar and allowed it to move freely in the land of terror. Suddenly, Yu Yuan understood why his life altar had been vibrating strangely when he was approaching the white bone territory. It was because of the blood spirit altar. To be more precise, it was because of the blood altar that was bound by the turbid demon fetus. The life altar inside of him, which had been forged from the giant beast essence amber, and the blood altar inside of the turbid devil fetus were similar in some way. He could sense the blood altar, and the blood altar could sense the abnormalities in his body. Perhaps that was why Chao Jiaza had thought so highly of him when they first met and tried to persuade him to join the Xuantianzong and become his right-hand man. The Blue Devil's Tear, Yu Yuan said through clenched teeth as he wiped the blood at the corner of his mouth. His expression was slightly twisted. He still couldn't understand how the blood spirit altar of the Blue Devils, which had been driven by He Sun and had taken the white-robed ghost, the crane-riding man, and the woman in the colorful cloud miasma sea into outer space, had fallen into Chao Jiaza's hands. Yu Yuan, I've been wanting to thank you for a long time. Chao Jiaza stood with his hands clasped behind his back. The blood altar inside of the turbid devil fetus loomed above his head and released a monstrous power that made Yu Yuan feel extremely depressed. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have been able to obtain this so-called Blue Devil's Tear. At the bottom of the Stardust Sea, the Chaos Koan, the Blue Devil's Tear, and the fiendish demon cauldron appeared because you released the Chaos Koan. As for you, you are the thread that connects the three great mysterious objects. If the Blue Devil's Tear hadn't escaped into outer space and was forever suppressed in the Stardust Sea, I would never have been able to obtain it and refine it. Coincidentally, the white-robed ghost was a cultivator of the Xuantianzong. He took the opportunity to leave and enter the depths of outer space to summon the 8 retinues of the Dark Nether Capital. Coincidentally, our sect master's attitude towards the Dark Nether Capital changed. He acquiesced and turned the Dark Nether Capital into a ghostly god that had never appeared in the Land of Terror. Plus, the white-robed ghost was a cultivator of the Xuantianzong who had always been respectful to our sect master. The white-robed ghost pulled the strings and our sect master found the Blue Devil's Tear. Chao Jiaza didn't continue speaking. However, everyone present had a rough idea of what had happened from his brief explanation. As the Shunhun sect approached and numerous experts from outer space poured in, the 3 high sects, possibly including the Devil's Palace and the Goblin Temple, knew that the Land of Terror would change. They wanted to firmly control this strange land that was closely related to the souls of all living beings in Howran. The Dark Nether Capital was seen as their first choice. Back then, they were the ones who instructed the moon-severing stage cultivators to heavily injure and almost kill the Dark Nether Capital in outer space. Now, they were also the ones who wanted to support the Dark Nether Capital to become a ghostly god. The white-robed ghost was their bridge of communication with the Dark Nether Capital. After they expressed their intentions, the white-robed ghost immediately betrayed He Sun and the Crane Riders' small alliance and told them the location of the Blue Devil's Tear in the depths of outer space. Then, perhaps the Xuantianzong's sect master personally took action. The outcome was unknown. In any case, the white-robed ghost successfully recruited the 8 great subordinates of the Dark Nether Capital to the Land of Terror. The Blue Devil's Tear was also seized by the Xuantianzong's sect master and secretly brought back. The Land of Terror had its own rules. Only experts in the Soul Wander realm could not be restrained by the rules of the Great Tao. Chao Jiaza was the strongest among the new generation of Xuantianzong in terms of courage, intelligence, and boldness. He was also at the peak of the Soul Wander realm and was simply the most suitable candidate. Therefore, the Xuantianzong sect master appointed him to come to the Land of Terror to assist the Dark Nether Capital. The Xuantianzong sect master also bestowed the Blue Devil's Tear to him to help him refine it in his body. It allowed others to be fearless in the Land of Terror and gave him the power to bargain with the Dark Nether Capital. It also allowed him to keep an eye on the Dark Nether Capital and prevent them from breaking the rules. He was the assistant and also the guardian. Whoosh! The spiritual altar transformed into a dark blue sky curtain, swallowing Bai Gu and Luo Yu one after another, then floated above Chao Jiaza's head. He glanced at it and said, "Whether you believe it or not, I just wanted to watch. If not for the fact that I had no other choice, I would not have taken action. Yu Yuan, under a strange combination of circumstances, you let me obtain the Blue Devil's Tear. I am quite grateful." Thump, thump, thump. Yu Yuan's heartbeat was several times faster than usual. The blood altar enveloped by the turbid devil fetus gave off a demonic power that almost drove him crazy and attracted him deeper. This demonic power reminded him of the feeling he had when he was attracted to a blood pool on Blood God Island in the Split Yen Islands. Inside the blood pool, the blood water was formed by the essence blood of Great Fae. He yearned for it. He forcefully endured it and decisively pulled himself out of the situation. But that blood pool paled in comparison to the blood altar in front of him. His eyes suddenly turned as red as blood as his rationality collapsed. He had no idea what Chao Jiazi had said after that as he charged toward the turbid devil fetus that looked like a blue shadow. Swoosh! The cauldron soul Yui repeatedly called out. Seeing no response, it flew into the Zhigung meridian in his chest. When Yu Yuan entered the blue shadow, the fiendish demon cauldron also disappeared. Really, you are the one who forced me. Chao Jiazi watched helplessly as Qin Lai disappeared into the blue shadow. Only then did he say to the guests from the Tianyuan continent who had gathered again, "So, whether you leave or do what you want to do has no effect on me." With the blood spirit altar and the Yin sunflower essence in his hands, he could walk with his true body. Who would he be afraid of? Martial nephew, what about Whitebone, Luo Yu, and Yu Yuan? The person from Xuantianzong asked humbly. The others were also looking forward to it. They all wanted to know what would happen to the three people who had been swallowed. They won't die. Chao Jiazi frowned slightly. The spirit altar is inside the land of terror. It cannot kill the Ghost King. Whitebone and Luo Yu are just temporarily trapped. I trapped them to buy time for Nether Capital. As for Yu Yuan, Chao Jiazi's expression was strange. He is not the Ghost King of the land of terror. He is here in his own flesh and blood. Whether he can survive the blood altar will depend on his own ability. He waved his hand and motioned for everyone to do what they should do. What about Nether Capital? The old man from Xuantianzong asked again. When Nether Capital's body returns, when he recovers his strength, and when he successfully ascends to the Ghost God realm, my mission will be complete. With an expressionless face, Chao Jiazi watched the blood altar and the spiritual altar merge. It would be great if Yuan could listen to me. Chapter 821. On a green mountain surrounded by dense vegetation, Yuan Lianyao, whose Yin soul had returned, stood on a cliff and looked into the distance with her beautiful eyes. She stood there quietly, creating a beautiful scenery that made many people from the Red Devil School feel infinitely beautiful. The Crimson Demon Sex Fang Yao sat on a dark red rock like a Buddha, silent and unmoving. Ho Tianzhao and many people from the Red Devil School of different realms were further behind. They looked at Yuan Lianyao from time to time and whispered to each other. On a nearby mountain, Demon Envoy Yu of the Devil Palace's silver rainbow demonic shuttle was quietly parked. A dozen or so cultivators from the Devil Palace were scattered around the mountain. At the foot of the mountain, there was a winding stream with clear water. A huge gray crow was basking in the sun. Beside Gray Crow, there were also some level 6 and level 7 demons. The great demons and the little demons chattered endlessly. Almost 100 experts from the Devil Palace, the Goblin Temple, and the Red Devil School were gathered here. Yuan Lianyao was looking at a huge pit. The bottom of the pit was actually the land of terror. It was dark all year round. Yuan Lianyao now knew that the land of terror was actually deep underground. The entrance was small, but the bottom was very vast. It was about the same size as the Azure Phoenix Empire. The sun hung high in the sky, and the blazing sunlight was like a sword of fire, making many people feel uncomfortable. From time to time, a powerful ghost would float out of the pit and be shocked when it saw the experts from the Devil Palace, the Goblin Temple, and the Red Devil School. Fortunately, the people from the Devil Palace, the Goblin Temple, and the Red Devil School didn't pay any attention to the ghosts that left. Recently, it was likely that more than a dozen specters of the underworld ghoul level had quietly left the land of terror. Whoosh! The Een spirit of Chu Yao of the Medicine God sect came out of the pit and attracted a lot of attention. Yuan Lianyao also looked over. Under the gazes of the crowd, Chu Yao's expression was as usual as he said in an indifferent tone, "By Gu Luoho, and that Yu Yuan from the Anua city should be looking for Chao Jiazi now." As soon as these words were spoken, everyone's expression changed slightly, and they began to discuss spiritedly. In front of Chu Yao, Ma Jianjiang, Jin Shaolai, Chen Qinyan, and the other sword sect cultivators had already come out of the Tongtian Trading Company's cloud cruiser. Ghost King Chuling had also arrived long ago. After safely escorting and Ziqing out, she abruptly left. Through Ma Jianjiang, Chen Qinyan, and Ziqing, and the others, these people from the tranquil continent roughly knew what had happened inside. When Chu Yao mentioned that Yu Yuan, Bai Gu, and Luo Ho had gone to find Chao Jiazi, Yuan Lianyao suddenly realized something. He just doesn't want you to get into trouble. After Chu Yao's God left, Fang Yao sighed softly and said, "You should know his good intentions. When you were with him, you didn't commit any unforgivable crimes. He was the one who did it, and you were just a bystander. Because of this, if the Devil's Palace and the Goblin Temple ask about it, I'll be able to explain it for you. He went to find Chao Jiazi to attack the cultivators of the Tianyuan continent. If you really got involved, it would be hard for me to say." After Yuan Lianyao's God and main body had merged into one, she didn't hide anything from Fang Yao. After that, Fang Yao negotiated with the Devil's Palace and the Goblin Temple. He admired Yuan Lianyao very much, especially when he knew that Yuan Lianyao's God was about to advance to the Soul Wander realm after being tempered in the Despair Terran. A few years after leaving the Anua city, Yuan Lianyao had refined her God in the Starash Sea region and was now trying to break through to the Soul Wander realm. Although the secret arts of the Red Devil School were fast, very few people could go from the subtle realm to the God realm and then to the Soul Wander realm in just a few years. Fang Yao had to admit that this woman, who was accepted into the Red Devil School, was more talented than him. Yuan Lianyao's cultivation talent was excellent, and she was good with words. She was deeply favored by him and Zhou Tsangmin, and was the focus of their training. He didn't want Yuan Lianyao to fall into the abyss because of Yu Yuan. "I hope he's fine," Yuan Lianyao said worriedly. "Junior Marshal Sister Yuan, I don't know what you're worried about. Didn't you hear what Chu Yao said? He's with Lord Whitebones and Ghost King Luoho. Lord Whitebones killed Black Staff and Frigid Abyss, and Luoho is with him. Who in the Despair Terran can be a match for them?" Ho Tianzhao bared his teeth and shouted. He was younger than Yuan Lianyao, but he joined the Red Devil School when he was very young. Therefore, he didn't care if Yuan Lianyao liked it or not, and he always called her Junior Marshal Sister. He also made it clear to Yuan Lianyao that he couldn't find any sense of superiority over Yu Yuan, so calling Yuan Lianyao Junior Marshal Sister would make him feel better. "Something doesn't feel right." Yuan Lianyao frowned. "You're right to be worried. It won't be that easy for him to deal with Chao Jiazi." Fang Yao's expression was serious. "Chao Jiazi's master is waiting outside. I can see that he's very confident in Chao Jiazi. Since Xuantianzong sent Chao Jiazi in, he must be 70 to 80% confident. Han Qi doesn't have any other skills, but he took in Chao Jiazi as his disciple, and then he rose to the top in Xuantianzong." In the distant mountain stream, Lord Grey Crow of the Goblin Temple said lazily, "Chao Jiazi is going in with his real body, but Han Qi isn't nervous at all. I think Yu Yuan is also worried." As he said this, he suddenly started cursing loudly. He cursed Yu Yuan for not knowing what was good for him and being bewitched by a scoundrel. He actually didn't stay in Azure Luan City and joined forces with the demons outside for no reason. The scoundrel he was talking about was Zhu-En and the great demon Lu. An hour later, Chu Yao of the Medicine God sect returned on a golden rock after his Yin soul merged with his true body. He said with a serious expression, "A wisp of my soul will dissipated with the wood-connecting soul pill." The Luo Ho Ghost King of the Land of Terror is the former sect master of Voodoo, Luo Yu. He was about to return to the Medicine God sect when he found that his soul will had dissipated. The last thing he heard was Luo Yu's identity. Luo Ho Ghost King, it's actually her, Demon Envoy Yu of the Devil's Palace said in a cold voice from the Silver Rainbow demonic shuttle. Chu Yao, tell your second master to be careful. I know that she has always been very respectful to your first master. He. Grey Crow laughed in schadenfreude. Who would have thought that Luo Yu would be able to cultivate to the Ghost King level after switching to the Ghost Dao? Kid Chu, be careful on the way back. I'm afraid that Luo Yu will sneak out and prevent you from returning to the Medicine God sect. Both Yu Demon Emissary and Grey Crow had heard of these old stories. Because of this, they didn't have a good impression of Chu Yao. I'm afraid that she won't come. Chu Yao snorted. He was in a bad mood, so he flew away on his golden rock. After a very, very long time, suddenly, a large number of Tianyuan continent's Yin spirits flew out from the pit. The moment these cultivators' Yin spirits left, a huge commotion erupted as they began to toss out new information. Chao Jiaza was indeed Chao Jiaza. He had refined the Blue Devil's Tear in the starry Ash Sea region, imprisoned by Gu and Luo Yu, the two great ghost kings, and used the turbid devil fetus to devour Yu Yuan. What? Chao Jiaza took the blood spirit altar of the Blue Devil race? Lord Grey Crow of the Goblin Temple suddenly flew up from his crouching position. He turned into a skinny old man and looked coldly at Han Qi, who was hundreds of miles away. Han Qi, why didn't the Xuantianzong say that you found He Sun in the outer realms and took the blood spirit altar? Yu Mo of the Devil's Palace also said, how is He Sun now? Fang Yao's expression changed. Yuan Lianyao's body stiffened. She muttered, how could this be? Wang Chuan Ghost's territory. Chao Jiaza of the Xuantianzong sat alone at the foot of the Yin Mountain. No one was accompanying him. He had driven away all the people from the Tianyuan continent and told them that the chaos in the Land of Despair had been settled, and they were waiting for the Dark Nether capital to drive them away. He forcefully ordered those people to leave the Land of Despair. At this moment, he was leaning against the wall of the Yin Mountain, quietly staring at the blood spirit altar made from the Blue Devil's Tear. He looked at the base of the altar, the turbid devil fetus. Yu Yuan's figure gradually appeared in the turbid devil fetus. Chao Jiaza's eyes suddenly shone with a strange light. Chapter 822. This was the second time Yu Yuan had entered the turbid demon fetus. Turbidity was a dark and filthy place. The fetus was the platform that supported the blood spirit altar. As soon as he entered, hundreds of different streams of supernatural power surged into Yu Yuan's body like a raging sea. His five senses were instantly thrown into disorder. His qi and blood became unbalanced, and his bones creaked. The flesh and blood of different races, the soul strands of dead human grand cultivators, the demonic thoughts of earth demons, the broken bones of demons, the pearl powder at the bottom of the sea, the dust in the depths of the universe, the icy crystals in the depths of the darkness, the fragments of divine weapons. All kinds of strange energy dregs and streaks of light filled the turbid demonic fetus, turning the blue shadow into a place with the most chaotic energy in the world. Moreover, the feeling he got this time was completely different from the last time. Last time, although the turbid demon fetus contained many kinds of supernatural power, each of them contained very little power. This time, not only did the turbid demon fetus contain more kinds of power, but each of them made him feel that they were dozens of times, or even 100 times, more turbulent than the first time he had entered. He immediately realized that after the blood spirit altar had broken the seal and entered the depths of the universe, the turbid demon fetus must have gained its freedom and expanded madly in the depths of the universe. Therefore, it could gather even more terrifying power. More importantly, the blood spirit altar had been refined by Chao Jiazi and become an item with an owner. With an owner, it could truly use the power of the blood spirit altar. It could also be used separately or combined to maximize its power. Puff! Crack! Inside the turbid demon fetus, he tried to use the fiend body tempering art. Then, he spat out a mouthful of blood. The blood turned into a blood bubble and merged with the hundreds of types of power inside the turbid demon fetus. Yu Yuan's expression changed abruptly. Last time, the body-tempering art of the fiend demon sect had been proven to be able to restrain the turbid demon fetus and strengthen one's body inside it. This was because the fiend body-tempering art absorbed all kinds of power. It first destroyed the body, then repaired it, and strengthened the bones and tendons. However, when he tried to use the same trick again, he immediately discovered that the streaks of supernatural power inside the turbid demon fetus were sweeping towards him like an ocean. He was like a small boat in a storm, unable to withstand it at all. In that instant, many of his bones cracked. His flesh and organs felt like they were about to explode. He had a terrifying feeling that he was about to explode and die. He had no choice but to stop. Enduring the piercing pain in his body, he frowned. After thinking about it carefully, he understood the reason. The evil fiend body refining art was still effective in the turbid devil fetus. However, since the turbid devil fetus was filled with too much power in the outer realms and was under Chao Jiazi's control, Chao Jiazi would sense it the moment he used the evil fiend body refining art. Therefore, Chao Jiazi would inject power far beyond his limits into his body. He used the fiend body refining art to draw in the flowing light of his supernatural ability. The power he naturally gathered was the most suitable for him. With Chao Jiazi's help, the power he could gather suddenly increased by 100 times. Of course, he wouldn't be able to withstand such a violent attack, so he was immediately injured. If he insisted on continuing, what awaited him would be his body exploding. His flesh, blood, and soul would all be turned into the power of the turbid devil fetus. What should I do? As soon as this thought appeared in his mind, he was shocked to find that even his consciousness had become somewhat blurry. His soul connection with the evil fiend cauldron had suddenly disappeared the moment he entered the blue shadow. He vaguely sensed that the cauldron's soul seemed to be suppressed by the spirit altar. Now that it had a master, the blue devil's tear had become extremely terrifying. Back when he had been at the bottom of the Stardust Sea, he had been able to absorb the energy from the turbid demon fetus through the evil demon cauldron and increase the power of the evil demon cauldron so that it could store enough energy for him to continue tempering his body. However, now that Chao Jiazi was here, there was nothing he could do. In fact, it was extremely difficult for him to even move freely within the turbid devil fetus. His body was like a fly frozen in liquid amber, and his soul felt as if it had sunk into a swamp. The soul-transforming pool. The source of the Yin meridians. Then, he used his soul to communicate with the mysterious pool in the fallen moon forbidden land and the underground will in the land of terror. However, he soon discovered that all his efforts were in vain. The turbid devil fetus, which was made of hundreds of flowing light of different kinds of power, was the strangest and most filthy place in the world. The frigid wind outside couldn't penetrate it. His soul and consciousness couldn't break the turbid devil fetus and establish a psychic connection with the soul-transforming pool and the source of the Yin veins. Gradually, he was forced to admit that he was completely and utterly restrained. Even the life altar in his flesh aura world had mysteriously quieted down after he had entered it. It didn't absorb even a wisp of flesh aura. This made him realize that the life altar didn't dare to absorb the residual flesh aura of the turbid devil fetus, which was mixed with all kinds of toxins, soul awareness, and impurities in the starry river. The life altar could only absorb pure flesh aura. It couldn't absorb soul awareness, toxins, bone fragments, or metal essences. If he dragged those impurities into the life altar, it would cause the operation of the life altar to stagnate, which would destroy the miraculous nature of the life altar. Helpless, Yu Yuan repeatedly tried to find a way to break free from the turbid devil fetus. In the outside world, Chao Jiazi of the Black Heaven sect had a strange gleam in his eyes, but it soon disappeared. Calmness returned to his eyes as he chuckled softly and said, Yu Yuan, oh Yu Yuan, you underestimate me too much. You didn't struggle to escape into the turbid devil fetus, because you thought you could do what you did back in the sea of starry ash, right? After refining the blood spirit altar, he learned what Yu Yuan had done in the turbid devil fetus. He had used the fiend body refining art to refine his body, the fiend demon cauldron to purify an area of filth, and the fiend demon fetus's hidden supernatural energy, and brought it into the small world inside the cauldron. Through the turbid devil fetus, Yu Yuan had obtained many pieces of giant beast essence ambers from the Chaos Kuan. It could be said that the first time Yu Yuan entered the turbid devil fetus, it could be said that it was a complete victory and a rewarding journey. The fiend demon cauldron's soul had told him that his fiend body refining art and the cauldron could fight against the blood spirit altar of the heavenly demons in outer space. The turbid devil fetus, as the ultimate weapon of the blood spirit altar, was perfect for the experts of the fiend demon sect. With this deep-rooted thought, when Yu Yuan saw the blue devil's tear again and was pulled into the turbid devil fetus, she didn't struggle with all her might. She felt that she could still be the same as before. Do you think I'll let you have your way after I refine this item? Chao Jiazi smiled. With my consciousness in charge, I'll hurt you every time you use the fiend body refining art. You can refine your body with 10% of the supernatural energy, but if you want 10%, I'll give you 90%. 10% is no longer cultivation. You're just asking for it. Muttering to himself, he looked at the spiritual altar and sent a thought. Whoosh, whoosh. Bai Gu and Luo Yu, who were bound by the spirit altar and unable to move, turned into a ball of mixed white and green light. A ball of multicolored light suddenly descended from the spirit altar towards the turbid devil fetus. The moment it fell, the light went out, and the two ghost kings were engulfed by hundreds of supernatural energy streams. In the land of terror, once the miraculous spiritual altar started cleansing the souls of the two ghost kings, White Bones and Luo Yu, it would immediately trigger a crazy counterattack from the source of the Yin vein. The nether river of the underworld, which corresponded to the two ghost kings, would continuously pour power into Bai Gu and Luo Yu. When the spiritual altar refined the two ghost kings, it was like fighting a war of attrition with the source of the Yin vein. The source of the Yin vein was the underground ruler of Hauran, the ruler of life, death, and reincarnation. Today, the source of the Yin vein was growing stronger every day. Because of the conflicts in Hauran, the fall of experts, and the death of mortals, the spiritual altar was fighting the entire source of the Yin vein. Fighting a war of attrition was suicide. Therefore, Chao Jiazi had White Bones and Luo Yu enter the turbid devil fetus like Yu Yuan. They were temporarily trapped and waited for Nether Capital to recover to its peak strength. He wanted Nether Capital to kill White Bones and Luo Yu with a power that met the rules of the Land of Terror. Chapter 8:23. On the top of the cloud-covered heaven-reaching peak, the first peak of Hauran. Zuan, who wore a feathered crown and was dressed in white, sat on a small pond at the peak of the mountain with his Yin spirit, Yang spirit, and true body. He narrowed his eyes and used the sky observing mirror to see through the myriad of things in the world. He could see everything that wasn't covered by the level 7 grand formation, such as the Qianxian continent, the Tranquil continent, and the Tianyuan continent. He was at the peak of the Freedom Realm and had merged with the heaven-reaching mountain. As long as he was here and his battle prowess increased by one level, even nascent divinity transformation stage and demon god wouldn't be able to do anything to him. Unless multiple nascent divinity transformation stage and demon god arrived at the same time. Howren was currently plagued by internal and external troubles. He knew where the nascent divinity transformation stage and what the nascent divinity transformation stage and demon god were doing. Therefore, he wasn't afraid of anything. Rip. A large, chubby hand tore open a spatial rift. Zhou Yu laughed dryly and crawled out of it. He steadied himself in front of Zuan and casually extinguished the glowing spatial rift. Then, he said, "You arranged for Yu Yuan to enter the Land of Terror, didn't you?" Zuan, who had helped Chen Liangquan ascend to the throne of the Azure Phoenix Empire, had been staring at the small pond all day after returning from Azure Phoenix City. He glanced at Zhou Yu expressionlessly and said, "I arranged for him to enter the Land of Terror. Have you ever thought of letting Yu Yuan go with White Bones and Luo Yu to deal with the Nether Capital?" Zhou Yu asked curiously. He had just received the latest news and heard about the series of events that had happened in the Land of Terror. He was puzzled. "I only let him enter the Land of Terror because I hoped that he could refine his Yin spirit there." Zhu An's lips curled up as if he was amused. Who would have thought that he could create such a big storm in the Land of Terror? Black Staff and Frigid Abyss died in battle, Chuling escaped, and Xianjia was trapped. Zuan pondered as he spoke, a strange expression on his face. A series of earth-shaking changes happened in the Land of Despair. It was as if he had been there himself. He had a better grasp of it than Zhou Yu. In the end, Zuan concluded, "The guys from your Tongtian Trading Company gave him a good nickname." "You mean the God of Plagues?" Zhou Yu was stunned. Zuan smiled and nodded. "Old monster Zhu, how can you still laugh?" Rolling his eyes, Zhou Yu said, "Since you know everything, you should know that he colluded with White Bones and Luo Yu to attack Chao Jiazi. At this moment, he has been imprisoned by the Blood Spirit Altar. White Bones and Luo Yu also suffered together with him. He won't die for the time being," Zhu An said indifferently. "That kid seems to have a special connection with the soul-transforming lake and that divine statue in the Fallen Moon Forbidden Land. You shouldn't wish for something to happen to him in the Land of Despair, right?" Zhou Yu said solemnly. "You should know that White Bones wasn't chosen by them." Zuan pointed at the lake. Chao Jiazi appeared in the small lake in front of him. He held the Heaven Palace seal in one hand and the Blue Devil's Tear in the other. It had been shrunk thousands of times and appeared in Jiang Xingwen's territory. With the heaven-gazing mirror and the heaven-reaching peak, he could see everything in the world. He could even see through the Land of Despair as long as he was willing to spend some of his mind power. However, due to the existence of the will of the source of the Yin spirit, he could only see through the heaven-gazing mirror. He couldn't do anything. Zhou Yu's expression changed. Chao Jiazi went to see the Nether Capital. White Bones was chosen by the will of the Land of Despair, Zuan said. The Nether Capital was chosen by the three great sects, the Devil's Palace, and the Goblin Temple. Zhu An's expression suddenly became serious. However, those who set foot on the return journey didn't choose the Nether Capital or White Bones, but Tian-Tsang. Tian-Tsang Ghost King? Zhou Yu shouted. Therefore, since Yu Yuan is still alive, there's no need to be anxious. There are always variables. You can't kill him. I can't kill him. If you want to kill him, you'll have to do it. Not now. Then wait for your body to return. Wait for you to regain your peak strength. In Granny Grey Ghost's territory, Chao Jiazi and the Nether Capital Ghost King fell silent after their conversation. Not long after, Nether Capital entered the Yin Mountain where Jiang Xingwen was. No one knew what he was doing there. Chao Jiazi played with the Blue Devil's Tear and stared at Yu Yuan, who was smaller than a grain of rice. He also looked at White Bones and Luo Yu. He was also waiting for Nether Capital's body to return and for Nether Capital to deal with White Bones and Luo Yu. He didn't want to challenge the rules that had existed for countless years in the Land of Despair. He didn't want to use the spiritual altar to fight a meaningless war of attrition with the source of the Yin spirit. Well, I have nothing to do. With a thought, Chao Jiazi condensed a bit of his soul consciousness from the small world in his mind and fell into the Blue Devil's Tear in his palm. Whoosh! His soul shadow appeared out of thin air in the turbid devil fetus, causing winds to blow and clouds to surge and mist to change unpredictably in this strange world where supernatural powers were mixed. Come here. He called out. White Bones, who was trapped in the turbid demon fetus, and Luo Yu were pushed by balls of light from different directions and arrived in front of him and Yu Yuan. Yu Yuan woke up abruptly and stared at Chao Jiazi, who had quietly appeared in front of him in the strange blue light screen. Chao Jiazi, Yu Yuan muttered. He saw White Bones and Luo Yu, who were wrapped in sticky balls of light, being brought over. Luo Yu's soul shrank into the flower basket. The basket was full of multicolored light, which had already been corrupted by the turbid demon fetus. Luo Yu's soul held on with great difficulty, occasionally using her refined soul power to dissolve the clusters of evil thoughts that were pouring into it. Bai Gu's jade-like body became brightly colored. The light of the turbid demon fetus power seemed to have seeped into his bones, making him feel as if he was lifting a heavy mountain when he moved his bony arms. From time to time, sparks would fly out of his emerald green eyes that were full of intelligence and intelligence. With a single glance, Yu Yuan realized that this ghostly monarch, who was the most powerful ghostly monarch in this terrifying land, was not only suffering from the corrosion of his bones, but his soul was also constantly fending off the turbid demon fetus soul awareness, soul-destroying toxins, and terrifying impurities in the depths of the starry river. He suddenly felt that he had let Bai Gu and Luo Yu down. And Ziqing, Chen Qinyan, and Yuan Lianyao had all warned him that Chao Jiazi was very powerful, and that he shouldn't provoke him. He knew that there was a tiger in the mountain, but he still insisted on going there. As a result, he was trapped. As a result, White Bones and Luo Yu suffered with him. Wake up, both of you! One of Chao Jiazi's soul shadows shouted from inside the turbid demon fetus, causing the power that was continuously infusing White Bones and Luo Yu's souls to decrease accordingly. White Bones and Luo Yu slowly woke up, their eyes shining at almost the same time. Yu Yuan and the two ghoul kings surrounded Chao Jiazi's soul shadow in a triangle, watching it together. The three of them didn't move. Like Yu Yuan, White Bones and Luo Yu had tried all kinds of methods, but found that they couldn't do anything about the turbid demon fetus in the blood spirit altar. The Chao Jiazi in front of them was just a soul shadow. Even if they killed him, it wouldn't make any difference. Since that was the case, they might as well see what Chao Jiazi wanted to say. Wait a moment. Chao Jiazi's words made Yu Yuan, White Bones and Luo Yu wait for a while. It seemed to be a long time, but it also seemed to be only a moment. A beehive suddenly fell into the turbid demon fetus from the outside world, and in the blink of an eye, it arrived where Yu Yuan, White Bones, and Luo Yu were. The queen bee was forced to crawl out of the beehive and turn into a scantily clad woman. Her soul shadow was blurry, but her figure was extremely hot. As the beehive was being corroded by the streams of filthy light, she said with a cold expression, "I've already retreated, and I don't want to get involved. Why are you still forcing me?" She was holding Chao Jiazi accountable. Inside the beehive, there were thousands of tiny soul shadows that seemed to be her children, but also her separated souls. Who asked you to be the Ghost King? Chao Jiazi smiled and introduced her to the puzzled Yu Yuan. This is the Goblin Temple's former Queen Bee, and the current Thousand Calamity Ghost King. Yu Yuan was shocked. She's the Thousand Calamity Ghost King? When he saw that White Bones and Luo Yu weren't surprised at all, he immediately knew that the Queen Bee in front of him was really Thousand Calamity. However, the Thousand Calamity he saw earlier, hidden among the stones, was just a soul secret art. I have nothing to do with the Goblin Temple. The Thousand Calamity Ghost King snorted. I don't owe the Goblin Temple anything. If you want to talk about owing, it's the Goblin Temple that owes me. You're different from them. They were sealed here by me, and I invited you. Chao Jiazi's expression was sincere. If you want to leave, you can leave at any time. The people the Dark Capital arranged can only keep an eye on you. Who can really trap Thousand Calamity? The Thousand Calamity Ghost King's hostility faded a little when he said this. Tell me, why did you summon me here? Do you know where Tian-tsang is? Chao Jiazi asked. At the mention of Tian-tsang, White Bones and Luo Yu fell silent. The Thousand Calamity Ghost King thought for a moment. I don't know where Tian-tsang is, but I think a place has the highest possibility. Where? Chao Jiazi became spirited. The Forbidden Land of Fallen Moon. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.